The following podcast contains spoilers and adult language, and I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I fear no evil because I'm blind to it all, and my mind and my gun, they comfort me, because I know I'll kill my enemies when they come.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And this week, let me get my Kleenex. We'll be talking about the unforgettable second episode of the second season of Last of Us. Title of the episode is Through the Valley.
I don't see what you're getting so emotional about. I mean, this was
I don't either. I'm
boring.
Cold and dead inside, really.
You should be cold and dead inside, but I mean, this episode, it was boring. There was no action. There was no drama. Right. I mean, nothing happened.
Hey guys, we're just kidding around, clearly. So, obviously we're here to talk about episode 2. Lots and lots and lots of things to discuss. But before we get into details of the episode and our detailed thoughts on the episode, let's just do like a quick right off the top of your head, quick thoughts. I went first last time for the premiere, so Steve, it's your turn. Quick thoughts. Episode 2, what did you think of the episode?
I was shocked. I was definitely clutching my pearls and my stars and garters. I mean, I played the game, and so I knew that this happens in the game. And it is quite a shock in the game as well, because Joel gets murdered, basically. Spoiler alert. He gets murdered. I would say if you were to in real time from when you start playing the game to when it happens, it's maybe 30 minutes of real time of playing the game, and then Joel's dead.
Wow.
So and the fact that they announced that they were deviating from the game, I thought for sure that would be something they would change. And instead of Abby killing Joel, they take him back to Seattle as a prisoner, and they're gonna put him on trial or execute him there or whatever. And then instead of the rest of the story being a revenge story of Ellie, because, I mean, at the end of the episode, she basically tells all of them, I'm going to fork and kill all of you, right? And so instead of it being her hunting them down and killing them, it's a rescue story where she's going to go try and save Joel, And then on top of it, I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but HBO has already announced they've renewed the show for season 3 already. Right. And there is no video game part 3 yet. So, what does that mean, right? Does that mean that it could be another game's coming out? Maybe it could mean that Mason and Drucken are just going to trailblaze and tell their own TV story from now on. But I mean, you're talking about the show without its main actor and the headliner for a whole season. How is that gonna work? I'm not. So anyway, and knowing all that, I was very surprised that they went ahead and did that plot point. Again, the fact that Pedro Pascal, who is the star of the show, and now, he's dead. He's gone. But I can, for everyone that's freaking out about that, one thing I will tell you, this was true in the game, it was true in last season on TV, and I'm sure it's going to be true this season, is that this story does a lot of flashbacky stuff.
It's funny because of Sarah has sat and watched 2 episodes of this show with me. When I was rewatching, she watched the Nick Offerman and Murray Head one,
right?
With me, and was like, that's an amazing episode. I'm like, yeah, I know.
The whole show.
And she just sat down and decided to watch on Sunday night.
Let's watch episode 2. Sure.
She came in about, I don't know, they were about 5 or 10 minutes in, and she came in and sat down. I gave her like a 5-minute primer on this, and this. This is too much to explain. I can't explain that either. And then I was like, just go with it.
Just watch.
And then we're watching together. And she knows who they are, and she caught that one episode. And she's probably caught like 5 to 10 minutes of episodes here and there. But when the final moment happened, and we literally both gasped out loud, she turns and looks at me, and we were talking about it. It's literally the thing we talked about right away. I was like, they have told different parts of the story in flashback. And she was like, plus, didn't they do a time jump? And I said, they sure did. The beginning of the season is 5 years from when the last episode aired. So the possibility exists that we could see Pedro again, just it wouldn't be present day.
Right.
It'd be flashbacks. It'll be, whatever. Plus, I was reading up on the episode a little bit today, like the technical stuff. And obviously a lot of it had to do with the battle sequence. But it took them just under 2 months to do this episode.
I bet.
Because of all of the stuff they had to accomplish with, obviously the fight. But, you've got one team, Bella and Pedro were not involved in the fight at Jackson at all. So you've got one crew filming all of that. You could be taking care of a bunch of side shooting for, episode 6, episode 4, there's a flashback of, whatever. I would be very surprised if we didn't see, they've already done it. It's something that Craig Mazin has shown, they filled out the relationship with Tess and Joel more by flashing back,
Right.
And it's the only way to really even tell the story is we're showing you what's happening now, but by the way, this happened before. So it's I agree. So I'm sorry, but continue.
Just as an example, if you remember last week when we were talking about the scene where Ellie's practicing with the gun with the scope.
Yes.
And Tommy's kind of teaching her, and I said, that happens in the game, but it happens like a lot later in the game, and it's kind of like a way to practice with the scope without, wasting your bullets and all that stuff. Well, what I didn't say was when that scene, when you shoot all of the ghouls, all the infected people that are like on the other mountain, right? They're super far away. Once you get all of them, you and Tommy, are like, well, we got to get back, and like all the stuff about, Tommy putting her on fence duty. So that doesn't happen at all. It's just they're out, somewhere on patrol or whatever. And so you and Tommy walk down the mountain a little bit, and you come up to this building, and Joel's there. And then Ellie and Joel go on like their own little adventure. And it's all flashback. This is all happening, and it's like 2-3 years ago from present day. So, So yes, there are other moments too, and I've already seen in the little like scenes coming up for the season that we got last week. I've already seen one thing that I'm like, well, that's a flashback. Now that I know.
Well,
so
that's good to know. Yeah.
So Pedro will still be there.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So anyway, I was shocked overall. The episode was amazing. So much was directly lifted from the game, which we'll get to. The Jackson fight was amazeballs to watch and exciting and terrifying and all that. So I was blown away by this episode for the fact that they had the stones to actually go through with wiping out Joel. That is a lot of testicular fortitude right there. And,
yes.
And then, the battle for Jackson or whatever you want to call it was, just insane. Rivaled anything Walking Dead ever did. Easily. And so yeah. What did you think? I know you've already said a little, but please expound.
I was so surprised.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, this is the thing that will set this show miles apart from any other. I mean, don't get me wrong, Walking Dead is an iconic television show, but as it stretched on and on, imagine Walking Dead killing Rick or Daryl in season 2, season 3.
Right.
And
yeah.
they were just gone. And it's the same amount of weight, you know. This is up until they got to Jackson Hole, I mean, you think of the first season, it's a two-hander with, supporting characters thrown in here and there as they're traveling, you know what I mean? And yes, they're in more of a set location now, and it's not like they're, walking all over the place and it's all supporting characters around them. But they are still the two main characters.
Sure.
And their relationship is the crux of the entire series. So I did not know that he dies in the game. I didn't know at all. I'd never heard it said. Because I didn't dip into any stuff about the game because I'd never played it. So I didn't
Sure.
want to know. I didn't even know who Abby was before the season started, when people were like, oh, that's going to be Abby. Oh, that's important. I'm not going to lie. I thought that Abby was someone who was going to end up being a love interest for Ellie.
Or Ellie,
because,
sure.
Yeah, because I didn't know who Dina was. I didn't know what any of that was. I just knew that Abby was a part of, she was a big enough character that she's part of the promotional advertising for the lead up,
Mm-hmm.
And so without knowing who she was, I just was like, oh, okay, well, that's what that must be. And clearly it's not. And I think they did a really good job of faking people out by saying, we are going to deviate from the game a bit in season 2. And like you said, every person who played the game and knew that Joel dies is probably like, well, that's the thing they're going to do, because who's going to kill Pedro Pascal when he's the most popular actor in America right now, and he's part of the reason why this is such a popular TV show. I mean, it's a great show on its own, but it's there's this extra buzz around it because he's in it and is so popular. So the fact that they not only faked people out by saying they were deviating, that's a masterstroke to be able to do that and do it effectively, but also to actually go through with it, like you said, that's balls, man. That
is
to do it, and it means that I trust Craig Mazin and his storytelling. And if he knows that the story is going to remain just as taut a thriller, just as an action-oriented, just as exciting and heartbreaking, and, that we will be just as invested without Pedro Pascal on the screen. If he thinks so, I trust him. And he knows it must be because he knew that there was no way that they could deviate from that this needed to be. And I did read some stuff where they said that this needed to be here because there needed to be a catalyst. And without it, the rest of the season doesn't work, because, like you said, it'd be a rescue mission, and now we're traveling all over America trying to find Joel and blah, blah, blah. So I did not know. I was genuinely surprised. And I was so surprised that in that moment where they're both laying on their sides and she's looking at him in his eyes, I literally was like, oh, he's going to get up. He'll get up. There's no way that they would have killed him. This didn't happen. And the fact that they did do it, that they had the strength of knowledge of the story to be able to do it, and to do it really well. They didn't just do it, but we'll get there when we talk about the scene, but the scene itself and the way it builds up and the way it was filmed and all that. There's so many great things about it. But to also take that and put it in the same episode as, was it just last episode where I said that I was looking forward to that little action piece with Ellie in the supermarket with the little feral tracker girl? Mm-hmm. And yeah, me and my big mouth, and then they have the biggest action sequence that we've seen outside of when they were in Kansas City and we saw the bloater the first time.
Yeah.
This is like that, but on such a larger scale. And I hate to say it, but there's way more stakes involved because we weren't invested in the Kansas City people.
No.
Of just our small little tiny group.
Right.
We are invested in Jackson Hole standing and for them to have a home and, and Tommy and all the work he's done and Maria and all the people that we're slowly meeting there. We want that to survive. So it had way more stakes. And I like you said, we've never seen anything of that scale on Walking Dead. I'm seeing a lot of people give it comparison. This has a lot of comparisons to some of the big battle scenes in Game of Thrones. There's a particular one in the episode called Battle of the Bastards, and it's one of the most epic battle scenes you'll ever see. And it's on that scale of how will we overcome this and surmount this? And it looks insurmountable at a couple of points, and they still persevere, obviously with deaths and injuries and all that other stuff. But to have taken those two amazing things and put them in the same episode, mm-hmm. All I'm going to say is that the next week's episode is going to be a little boring.
You're saying this is going to be the episode after everyone gets cut to ribbons on the ship episode.
Right. Oh, exactly. Or this is directly after the dumpster. This is the cheesemaker episode will be next week.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is fine because it has its place. I am so fully engaged with this journey. I am so ready for any kind of revenge journey that Ellie goes on, and I'm so invested in these folks that I just really can't wait to see how this all sort of plays out. And I'm so drawn in, and I'm so excited while being sad at the same time. It's still just, again, an example of why it's the best show on television right now. Just absolutely amazing from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. So,
all right.
I think my quick thought is that loved it,
but hated it.
Loved it, but cried. How dare you?
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you gonna do? So, yeah, so that's that. So let's get into some more nitty gritty. Before we get to details of the episode, let's talk writers and director of the episode. And before that, let's just remind ourselves just a little tight description of what happened in episode 2. So why don't we get started with that?
All right. Well, again, this is episode 2.2. The title is Through the Valley. And they could have added in parentheses, and don't forget your Kleenex.
Correct.
And the description that we have is it's like most typical descriptions in that, yes, some of the things that they mention actually occur in the episode, but it leaves out a few little details. And what we have is, as a storm brews in the mountains, the people of Jackson Hole prepare for the worst amid increased sightings of infected. Meanwhile, Abby weighs her options, which club does she use? Huh?
Yeah. I would like to say that she did, in fact, weigh her options. It was in the 30 seconds that she was standing in front of the fireplace.
Yes.
Where she was like, okay, do I just hit him or do I tell everybody who he is and then haul off and hit him?
No.
Should I shoot him right away?
Why don't I just shoot him in the leg with the shotgun?
Slowly. Yeah. Like she was planning it out in her head.
Oh, yeah.
That's what she was weighing. Her options were, how do I start? Because I want this to go slow, so what's the best way to hurt him first? So,
right.
Yeah.
See, for me, the options were, when she was looking and going, do I use the putter or the 4-iron here? Which, I think I'm going to go with the 4-iron. I need some more distance,
Yeah, I don't know as much about golf clubs as the average person, so this might be an uninformed choice, but this one looks shiny, and I think has a heavy little club on the end. I think this will hurt.
This will do a lot of damage. Yes. Nice. All right. Well,
so let's talk writer-director, too.
Yeah. And again, this week our writer is Craig Mazin. And not a shock, right? and that, of course, I think what we're going to see is every week they're going to credit Druckmann and that gal we mentioned, Gross was her last name, Ashley or Abby Gross or something. And they wrote the game. So they're going to get credit for like story credit, I think, every week.
Gotcha.
And it's going to say like based on, the game Last of Us Part 2 by those two. But the actual television episode this week was written by Craig Mazin. So again, not surprising. We've talked about him a ton. Again, Chernobyl, all you got to say. And so he's our writer, and it's unbelievable. The way he balances the two stories, and you have this massive, huge event going on, and then you also have this very private, intimate event going on, and they're both tense and scary and awesome and bloody and all that stuff. And then our director this week is new. It's not the same director as last week, and the director we have is a British guy, and his name is Mark, and I'm just gonna guess on his last name and say Mylod.
Sure.
Mylod. I don't know. It's Mylod. I don't know. But huge, lots of chops, lots of experience, lots of stuff he's directed. He's also produced a lot as well. But just picking things up that he's done, he's directed episodes of Succession, of Shameless, of that diceless Game of Thorns thing you talk about all the time. He's even going back, he directed episodes of Entourage, if you guys remember that show from, a while back. And just for movie wise, he directed, the movie called The Menu, if you ever saw that, with Anya Taylor-Joy and Andrew Holt and Ray Fiennes, and it's about the crazy chef. It's a really, really cool movie. And so he directed that as well, and a bunch of other. I mean, you can go look him up on IMDb. He has a ton of credits of both directing and producing. So very, very accomplished guy, and I thought he did a really good job.
I found a little tidbit when I was looking things up that Mazin actually wanted him to come in and direct some things during the first season, and he was very interested, but he couldn't because of his conflicts with Succession. So once Succession was over, he was like, come on over. We've got some episodes for you.
I'd like you to direct. This is a light one. Can you handle it?
The most terrible one out of all of them.
Yes, right, exactly. So anyway, that is your writer and your director.
Okay. So we didn't really get a cold open. We just went right into the credits right after the previously on. But the post-credits scene was a really quick check-in with Abby. And it was an interesting scene because it was dark, and at first I couldn't figure out. Like, it was clearly Abby going to check, back in the Salt Lake time, going to check in the room there where the doctor was dead, clearly her dad, but I couldn't, because of the darkness, I couldn't tell that was current Abby. So it's current Abby and 5 years ago Abby. In this, she's having a dream where she's talking to her old self and pretty much trying to
don't go in there.
Tell her old self, don't go in there. There's nothing in there.
His brains are on the floor.
Right. And she just doesn't listen, and
Well, she said
has to go in and
she
see it
says something
herself.
like, "I don't know you," to her future self, right? And then like, young self is like, I have to go and see for myself, and future Abby's like, don't do it. Don't do it, man. It's not going to end well. And then when she goes in, it cuts back to present day Abby, like the future Abby, and she's like tears are like running down her face. She's, because she knows what her younger version is going to see, and
Right.
that emotional crushing that's about to happen, What did you think about that scene? What did you think about learning that, oh, okay, the doctor, which, we talked about that scene last week. Remember, you were talking about the nurses, and did he kill them, and did he not, and that stuff. So anyway, what did you think? What were your thoughts?
It was interesting. It added some more layers to that finale scene, and I think it was clear in episode 1. I think she mentions that the doctor was her dad, so I think we knew those things.
No, we didn't.
But we didn't.
No, this was the first time that we knew that the doctor was her dad. I'm pretty sure.
I could have sworn they said so, because I wouldn't have known that. So I went into this episode knowing that her dad was the doctor. So I don't know. Maybe it was brought up by you in that when we were chatting about it. I can't remember.
No,
but either way,
I didn't spoil that. No, but I don't believe that was mentioned last week with the stuff we got with Abby.
So, well, if that's the case, then I don't know where I would have gotten that information.
I don't know.
I knew that was no. I'm just saying,
I think the scene where they're with the giraffes, I think she said that her dad was killed, but I don't think that she said he was the doctor. I think that was the new piece to that. So.
Okay.
But anyway, could be wrong. I made several mistakes in my remembrances of the game last week, which we'll get into in a minute here. When I said, this is what this is, and I'm like, as I'm watching now, I'm like, oh wait, that's not how it went. So anyway, so continue.
Anyway, so with the giving her the advice of don't go in there and all of that, I feel like. I don't know. Like I liked the scene. I thought it was interesting because I thought at first because current Abby, 5 years later Abby is in kind of darkness and in shadow, and it's not clear at first that it's her. I thought that it was just a flashback, that we were just seeing a flashback of Abby stepping in and discovering all the people who were dead and whatever, and this is just another person, like maybe one of the nurses or something like that was standing in the hallway. But then like the light shifts and you can see, and then the voices are similar, and I was like, oh, it's her. She's talking to herself, and then I was like, oh, this must be a dream, and then she woke up.
And then suddenly
So I did at first, like in my first time watching it, I did think that it was possibly just a flashback scene, that we were seeing her when she did find all the dead bodies, etc., etc. So it's interesting that it turned out that it was not that thing. It was something else entirely. It was her mulling it over in her head,
reliving
again,
it,
for probably the millionth time. Yeah.
Well, you kind of get the sense that like this is probably like her recurring nightmare for the last 5 years, right? That walk down that corridor, and like the sirens are going off, and it's like the lights are all off except the emergency light. You know what I mean? It looks like something bad has happened here. And and even with a future version of her saying, you do not want to open that door, she's like, no, I'm gonna open the door, and boom, there she goes. But and I should point out that scene that we saw there, it does happen in the game, but it's much later on. I would say more than halfway through the game before we find out why Abby is so hell bent on revenge.
Does in the game, does it happen like it is? It's like current Abby talking to herself?
No, you know what? It's it's like an actual flashback where you play her and you're walking down the corridor and it looks the same, and really the only thing you can do is open the door, and you go in and the doctor's lying on the floor and you know, and all that. And then I think there's, oh boy, it's really tough to talk about because I don't know what the show's gonna do. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it's it is a scene in the game, but like I said, in the game it's like you've like played halfway through it before you get that. It's real interesting. Again, when we get to the end of the season. And one thought that occurred to me is that, you know, this game, part 2, there's a lot to it, and it's possible that they're going to stretch out this story into 2 seasons.
That might be what they're deciding to do with season 3. Then. Yeah.
And so, and because of that, and because I don't know what's going to be in and what's not, I'm just going to hold off on a lot of things that I would really like to tell you, but I can't. And when we get to the end of this season, if the end of this season is the end of the game, if they follow through the storyline all the way through, then I will definitely have some time to say, okay, this is what the game did. It was really interesting and blah blah blah. But anyway, suffice it to say that sequence does happen, but it's not a dream sequence where she talks to herself. It's just. Yeah. You're just doing it, and it's more to let you, the player, know, oh, okay, now I know why she's so pissed at Joel.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it happens, it's just it's a different sort of sequence, like different feel to it. But it gives you the same information.
Correct.
Just in a different way. Okay.
Yes.
So when she wakes up out of this dream, she it's clear that the rest of the ex-Fireflies are they've found a place to sort of hold up for the night. After coming upon, you know, Jackson at night, they decide to, you know, find a place to sleep, etc. And this was one of my few things that I found, I don't want to say unbelievable, but I felt like they were stretching it just a little bit. So they've established that Jackson, that they are very vigilant. They go out on patrols every day, or close to every day, it seems like. Very regular patrols. And they're very familiar with the area. Mm-hmm. And they're very familiar with, like, what would be out of place, what would be in place. And not just the patrols, but they also have very engaged people on the fence, watching for anything, any movement in the distance. They have really good, like, they have good tactical, like, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? Binoculars. I was like magnifying glass in my head, and that's the wrong word. I mean, it is magnifying, but just Diana. The wrong thing. Yes. So they have all the right equipment. So my question is, I'm curious, how did no one see they lit a fire in the fireplace? So that means there's smoke coming out of that fireplace. So the smoke coming out of the fireplace, and like I could see, like, at night doing it and then dousing it first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. Like, when she wakes up, it's light out. They've been up for an hour. Like, he said he was doing, like, a thing outside, whatever. He was doing a patrol, like, the first hour. So the fire is still going. And don't get me wrong, it's not a roaring fire, but it's still creating smoke. The heat alone, considering how cold it is outside, would create an even sort of thicker plume because of it being, you know, just the heat would create steam. So nobody could see that from where they were, like a single strand of smoke. And wouldn't they have created some kind of light in there by having a fire? Because you can see the way the thing is laid out. They show you the window of the lodge looks right out to the valley because they look right at Jackson. They're commenting on, oh my God, it's so big, yada yada, whatever. And the way where the fireplace is situated, any kind of light from the fireplace would shine right through that window. So I feel like, and then later in the scene, it felt like the patrol people didn't know about the lodge. Like they had to, like she's like, we're staying in a lodge that's up on the mountain. It would have been more interesting if Joel had been like, oh, I know where that is. Let's go. Do you know what I mean? It felt like this lodge, and it's not like a little cabin in the woods. This is a large house. Mm-hmm. And it felt like they didn't know where it was. It felt like they didn't check it out, and there was, they went by with the horses, and the people were close enough that they could hear them, and they can't see smoke coming out or smell it even. Well, I would smell a fire burning.
Remember that she went out away from the lodge to like that outcropping to observe, and that's where she heard the horses. So
absolutely, but still, I think that the proxy. I think that a lot of those things were possible. I think that the way that they did the blocking of the scenes and stuff with the horses and the people getting fairly close to the lodge, the way that Joel acted like he didn't know what that lodge was, it just felt, it's the only thing I did not like in the episode. I loved everything, but I just found, I went right up against it. As soon as the episode started too, and they showed the fire in the fireplace, and I'm like, oh, they must be in some hidden spot. And they literally walk right up to the window and they're looking down on Jackson. I'm like, how did nobody see that? I feel like that was just they should have had like curtains on the window or something like that to sort of, they hung something up on the window to make sure that they weren't, what's the number one thing you do in the apocalypse? You don't want people to know when you're holed up somewhere. That's like, a number one. I don't know. It didn't by any means ruin the episode for me.
I think it did. All. Listening to you, clearly you've been going on and on about this. I feel like I'm like this close to being Joel and be like, oh, will you shut the hell up and get on with it?
No. I feel like I jotted down a couple of things, and then as I'm talking about them, I realized like there's more to it, and it felt weird, like especially considering how well put together these episodes are. Everything's done with purpose, and it's done so tight and so well done, and it just nagged at me right away in the very first part of the episode. And I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan of like that, or that. But the episode does its thing. And then when I went back and watched it a second time, I watched it with cleaner eyes. And I was like, well, maybe there's something I missed when I watched it the first time. Maybe there's something they do or some way it rolls about that would make it seem like, this is a hidden location or a heart, who would see, whatever. And it was all the same stuff I saw the first time. So I was just like, I have to make notes on that. Stupid. But anyway.
So what you're saying is that in the near future, you're going to start having this horrible recurring nightmare where you're walking up to watch episode 2, and then another version of you will be like, don't do it. You're not going to like what's in there. They have a fire going, and it's totally visible to Jackson. And what about the smoke? And then you're going to look at future you and be like, oh, he just shut up. And then you're going to turn it on. And then you're going to wake up. I think this is what's going to happen.
The thing that is hilarious is that as I'm having this conversation where I'm sort of, I'm bitching about a thing that just didn't work well for me, I'm literally, where I record is in our second floor office space, and there's windows right behind the monitors, and I'm looking right out onto our front yard where my wife, my mother-in-law, and my niece is over right now, and they are burning leaves in the front yard. So as I'm talking about, I literally thought about the thing with the smell because I was like, I'm in the house and I can smell them burning those leaves in the front
Oh,
yard.
of course you can.
Oh, yeah,
But I mean, how
yeah.
far away is Jackson? Which way is the wind blowing?
No, I don't mean
you know,
Jackson.
I mean,
I meant the patrols. The patrols would have been able to smell but whatever. It's neither here nor there.
I think it is there, and here. I think it's
here,
both places.
There, everywhere. It's too much.
Look, you know what? I am totally ready. Let's pack up our stuff. We're going to Los Angeles. We're gonna like find Craig Mazin and be like, "Hey, buddy." You know your episode 2, which was one of the most greatest episodes of television ever. How dare you have them light a fire in that place when it's totally bad? And he'll be like, "I'm sorry, how did you get past security?"
He's like, "I'm sorry, what's your name?" Security. Get her
we
name
need to
down.
ban you. Yeah, that's right. Do not let this woman anywhere near me ever again.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just wrap it up here. The end of the podcast. Diana hated it. And
hated it. No. Hey, we're here putting a discriminating eye on great television, and even great television has moments that like don't ring true for people sometimes. So I'm just curious. Obviously you made no notes about it, and it didn't seem to bother you or have any effect on you. So I'm just curious if our listeners felt the same way. So we'll wait to hear from them.
I think our listeners are rational people, and they will basically say, "You know what, Diana? Shut the hell up and make your own damn television show if it bothers you that much."
I will then. Fine. Okay. So jumping away from that, let's get to Jackson themselves. Jackson with the broken binoculars that can't see a roaring fire on the other side of the valley. Anyway, so I know, right? So hey, let's do a preparedness drill. That's not a foretelling event for what's going to happen later in the episode.
No.
But hey, it's good that they did.
It is good.
I would say too that based on, Ellie and Jesse having conversation later, which, we'll get to that, it seems like, she's got, they have her to thank for a little bit of it because they were a little rattled by her story about the smart,
the ghost story.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a little more to it. They did, I liked that scene with Jesse and her. They're very well like paired together. Mm-hmm. They give each other crap and all of that, but he actually knows that she's, a good person and she works really hard and she's a good fighter. And so he acts like she's a pain in the ass, which she is a pain in the ass, but he knows that she deserves to know information, so he gives her the information that he knows. Which was he tells the story about the person who, they came upon a handful of infected, and then it gave way. There were a handful of infected in the snow, and it gave way, and then there were like 30 that were hiding underneath, so they were talking about, how they were smart and they were keeping themselves insulated away from the cold, et cetera, et cetera. And then also Ellie's story about the smart, strategic and the planning, et cetera. And so because of that, they're getting a little nervous and they're like, okay, so let's go through some drills. Let's remind ourselves what we do. And it's, like I said, it's smart that they did because they ended up needing to use it less than 24 hours later.
Oh, like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, it feels like that, right? So, it's all good plans, and when we see the battle happen, we see everything that they talked about, people doing their jobs, going where they're supposed to go, doing the things they're supposed to do. And they probably would have done just as well, but it's interesting that they had the preparedness sort of drill beforehand, and then, like 2 hours later, they're doing it in real time. So, yeah.
I was very impressed that no one pulled an Earl. And and shot
Shot
themselves
themselves.
with the safety. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I thought that was very impressive, and that was Tommy saving lives right there. You know, yeah, you know, I mean that whole sequence, you know, where Ellie wakes up and Jesse's knocking on the door. This is what one of the places where I made a mistake last week. And remember where I said, you know, the game starts and Dina comes and gets Ellie and they go out on the patrol, which, I mean, that happened last week and I thought that happened in the game, but it actually, and what threw me was the switchblade when Ellie picks up the switchblade and puts it in her pocket, because
Right.
that is straight out of a scene in the game. And my brain just went, oh, that must have been Dina came over to get her. And it's not. The game starts and it's literally the night after the dance. And Jesse is knocking on the door, and Ellie is like, you know, she kissed me, and of course Jesse's like, she kissed you, and then he's like giving her crap on it, and he's like, I already know, it's no big deal.
And I don't care, yeah.
Yeah, I don't, you know, and so and so then he's like, come on, we got to go on patrol, and then he's like, you know, again, very gamey, I'll wait outside for you, and then you as Ellie like walk around the garage and you like get your backpack and you get your pistol and all this stuff, and the last thing you get before you leave when you move to the door is the switchblade, and then you and Jesse walk through the town and you go see Marie or Maria, and Seth is there and he makes the sandwiches and he apologizes. All that stuff happens. The only difference is that the whole attack on Jackson is not in the game at all.
Right.
And so Tommy doing the big talk, that doesn't happen. And when you eventually leave that place and you head to get on the horses, Ellie's like, well, I don't want to go with you. I want to go with Joel. And of course, in the show, Joel's already left with Dina is what happens. In the game, Joel's already left and he's with Tommy. So
Okay.
that's where Tommy is in the game. Right. And so it has to be Jesse and Ellie. But anyway, I apologize because I totally, so that switchblade thing, I'm like, yeah, it was Dina that did that. And I'm like, no, it's not. But you do go out on stuff with Dina, and that's where I got confused. So anyway, I apologize for that. But I thought that, again, that scene was just from a standpoint of borrowing or taking from the game was amazingly spot on. But then on top of it, you do have this kind of like it's something that I have always complained to on the mountaintops about any zombie movie show, is that the people, once it's like they set up their safe haven and then they immediately stop getting
Right.
ready for when it's going to get broken into, right? It's like our commercial, right? You know, everyone believes that their safe haven is invulnerable. You know, it's like, I know, like the walkers are totally going to get in. You know what I mean? It's like when we said those lines, it's just so true that
Right.
these people, they never take that next step and are preparing and have a contingency plan. And what do we do when they show up? How do we try and defend the walls? And then what do we do if they get in? You know, do we just all run in panic, or do we, you know? And it was really cool to see that they had gone that extra step where they actually had, okay, when they show up, we're going to take these big ass barrels full of gasoline and we're
Right.
going to roll them out on top of them, and then we're going to blow them all up. But even if that doesn't work, we even have another plan of what happens if they get inside. And I thought that was amazing and just so smart, because that's what I would do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and in all these shows and all these movies, that is like a high bar for me, is that when characters start making decisions that I'm like, there is no way I would ever do what you just did, ever, they lose me, right? And when they do things and I'm like, oh my God, that would totally have been my next move, then I'm totally 100% on board and, ready. I'm in like Flynn, man. I'm going to follow this and enjoy the hell out of it, because they're acting and thinking like I would if I was in that situation. And so I give them huge, massive props for, like you said, that they run this preparedness drill. Who knew that, like, literally right when the drill ends, the attack starts? But still, I mean, it was just great. It was really, really clever and well thought out. And it was like an actual, like, defense plan that, I'm like, yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that scene. Again, even though a lot of it was stuff that wasn't in the game, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. So
yeah, we got more details to talk about when we talk about the actual assault, like the actual war scene or whatever, fight scene. But I agree. It was all like very smart things, smart defense decisions, everything that they were saying where they were like, oh, in the basement and the going up and da-da-da-da, like everything makes all kinds of sense. That's exactly what you want in your leaders to have, like, and I like how they made it a community thing, because they were like, that wasn't all of the residents, those were like supervisors or like neighborhood leaders or whatever, and
team
they were like,
leaders,
because they were like, go tell your neighbors. So the next thing they had to do is go talk to their neighbors and remind them, you want to do this, this, and this. Don't forget, we're doing this. And if you hear the bell and whatever, that's your big thing.
Right. So hear the bell or you see the flares, immediately stop what you're doing and execute the plan.
Yeah, execute the plan, yeah.
And just little things like, you know what? Do not go out on the street. That is the last place you want to be.
Right.
And I don't know if this was, maybe this is just me, but although Craig Mazin, he's a steely-eyed missile man, so I'm certainly going to give him credit for this. But just the fact that, like, the plan used terms like shelter in place, that was very like, what do you do when the crazy high school kid shows up at your school and starts shooting up the place? It's very, it's a term that we've unfortunately heard a lot in the last 10 years, is that kids that when they go to school now, they practice drills where it's like, okay, we're going to pretend that there's, someone here with a gun. What do we do? And, you lock yourself in the classroom and you shelter in place and you don't open the door until someone comes and tells you it's okay. And all these things that, like, for you and I are just like, oh my God, because we never had to do that when we were kids, and yet it's common. It's normal, right? It's normal now that, most schools have someone on the premises who's armed.
Yeah.
They're just in case, right? And so again, I think it's Craig Mazin kind of tapping into that fear of, this happens, like the idea that, like, Jackson could get overrun is such a real possibility to these people that they run these drills a lot.
Right. And you have to admit too, like, in the years that they've been in there, they've must have had moments with, raiders, which we've heard discussed, but we haven't really seen, but we know what they are. It's just a band of people trying to take your shit.
It's Rick's group.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's we haven't seen one in practice, but they had to have gone through this in the past. Because they, it's so tightly done. When the time comes that it's, without question. So, but good on them, they've got a plan, they've got it in place, and it's multi-layered. They're not depending on one specific thing. So it's good. It's very, very good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's pivot a little bit to, once they start that meeting, we get, Jesse and Ellie, head out on their patrol that they have together, and we get this great scene with them where the weather changes and they end up having to shelter in place in a place that Jesse knows that he learned from Eugene. And it's this 7-Eleven. It's where Eugene used to grow all of his weed.
Yes.
Which I thought was great. But one of the things that really got me in that scene was, Eugene's things were there. There were, trinkets and things of his that were still there. And Ellie finds that Eugene had a firefly. They wear like a charm.
A dog tag.
Yeah, exactly. Like a dog tag, a modified dog tag. and it has your name on the back. And she was really surprised. And there's just a quick little conversation where she says Eugene was a Firefly. Jesse says just early on he quit in 2010. And she says, why? And he said he got tired of killing people, which I thought was really interesting, because here's this one person who gave up being a Firefly because they didn't want to kill people anymore. And then we get this scene at the end of the episode with these people who used to be Fireflies, and they all kill this one person. I mean, Abby,
Abby
puts the final blow.
The rest of them watch.
Yeah, they all watch, but they facilitate it. They don't stop her.
Yeah, they don't. No. They don't.
So yeah, I liked that. I liked that 7-Eleven scene, and you made a note about it too. So.
Yeah, I did. Just that, get that again. So much of basically everything in the episode that's not the Battle of Jackson is like straight out of the video game. Everything is. It's all stuff that happens in one form or another, with like little cosmetic changes. Like I said, it's not Joel and Dina in the game. It's Joel and Tommy, right?
Yeah.
But that's it. Almost everything else that happens to them, other than gamey stuff that clearly you're not going to show on a television show, it's the beats are all there. Yeah. And so, they're out on patrol. The weather's getting worse. And then they get the radio call of, hey, you know what? You need to, we're canceling the patrols. Come on back because the weather's turning. And they're like, we're too far away. We won't make it. And then Jesse's like, I know a place. And you open the garage and you put the horses in the garage, and then you run across the street and you go in the 7-Eleven, and literally Ellie's like, am I like hallucinating or what? And he's like, are you seeing a 7-Eleven full of weed? And no, you're not, And like everything, like the gas mask bong that's in the game.
Oh my
Ellie
God,
picks
I
it
love
up,
it.
and I mean it's intense. And the Firefly medallion, and again, this is another area where I made a little mistake in that I thought that Eugene and Gale were a different pair, that they find the letters where, Gail's dead and she's written down like, Eugene went to go get medicine for me, but he didn't come back. And then you go and you find Eugene later on and he's a turn and you kill him. And then there's and that happens in the game, but it must have been someone else, because Eugene is this guy who is in Jackson. And again, I as far as Gale and all that, I would have to play the game again, because I don't remember, where she comes up or if she's mentioned in letters or what. But anyway, this scene was amazing. I was just blown away by how close to the game and the cut scene we get of them resting in there is to what they actually showed on TV. It was great, and in this one we get a little bit more about Joel killing Eugene, right? Because Jesse says something like, I think he was in Vietnam.
Right.
And so that combined with like joining the Fireflies, and then basically just having to kill people. He's like, that I've done it too much. It's too much. So he leaves, and then Jesse says something like, it's crazy, that he survives a war only to die the way that he did. And then they say something like, but Joel didn't have a choice. He had to put him down. So again, we get kind of a little like a tease as to what happened with Eugene, but I'm still sticking with that he got infected and they had to kill him.
Yeah. In seeing that scene again too, they show clips of it again. I think it was on the Previously On, and they keep using that part where Gale says, I know you couldn't help it, or you
you didn't have a choice.
Didn't
or
have
something.
a choice. Yeah. So that's I think you're right. I think that the most obvious thing must be that it's that he was bitten or infected in some way.
He breathed spores or something, and was knew he was turning, or maybe he did turn, and so Joel did his best. Joel did did his best Abby and found a golf club and then proceeded to bash his brains in. You know, I mean, I'm sure it's something normal like that.
So we get this great scene. There's so many things going on, so many moving parts in the episode. But one of the biggest catalysts the whole episode was, oopsie, Abby's out there. She's monitoring, she's watching, they're doing like lookouts or whatever. And, she hears people go by on the horses, like further down. She wants to follow, but she comes up upon this sort of edge, like this ridge,
cliff,
this little, basically a cliff, right? Part of me is like, if this wasn't covered in snow, you wouldn't have been friggin' doing this. But
there's no way.
Yeah, but she's trying to sort of get down so she can get close to them for whatever purpose, whether it's to take them prisoner or do whatever, because they all admit, like, they don't have a plan. The Fireflies. Well, yeah, they're trying to put one together.
we should point out that, like, after Abby has her dream, she gets up, and one of the other guys, his name is Owen, is already up, and then everybody else gets up, and there are 5 of them total that are there, and they're all like looking out these massive windows that you mentioned when the fire scene that so bothered you so much happened. That they're all like freaking out, like, oh my God, Jackson's like, it's a city, and one of them's like, I thought it would be like a tent community and blah, blah, blah. And Owen kind of gives the bad news of like, there are 4 gates and they're all guarded and they have, patrols that, are constant and counter crossing each other. And so very well organized and, like they're like military. And he's like, yeah, they got to have a lot of military, ex-military people there because they're very organized. And then he kind of poses this thing of like, even if we manage to get past all that stuff, and then someone goes, oh, and they have dogs, and he's like, yeah, and the dogs too. If we get past all that stuff, we have no idea where Joel is in there, and the place is huge, right? And basically painting a really bad picture,
right?
And then Abby's like, well, let's capture a patrol. We'll kidnap. We'll take them prisoner, and we'll threaten them to talk. And then I think Manny or maybe Owen goes, and what happens if they don't talk? Which, that's true, right? It's like, talk or we're going to kill you. No. Okay. You're like, well, and one thing that all the other Fireflies in this room, they're all adamant about, look, we're only here to kill Joel. We're not going to hurt or kill anyone else.
Right.
Because that's, we have no beef with anyone else. It's just Joel. Right. Joel's the one that killed all the Fireflies. And of course, Abby is so hell bent on revenge that she's getting to the point of like, if we have to kill a few more people, okay.
Right.
And so there's this kind of divergence of why are we here happening. And so Abby's like, well, I'll go out and on the first watch. And then once she leaves, Owen, who had told her, I kind of have a plan, but I got to think about it a little bit more. And then the other guys all come over and they're like, do you really have a plan? And he's like, I do. And it's that we should talk her into leaving because because he's like, if we go in there, the only people that are going to get killed are us.
Right. And he's not wrong. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's absolutely right that the chances of them being able to get in there and infiltrate and then find Joel, who they don't even really know. I mean, all they know he has the scar, right? That's it. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. So anyway, now we get Abby and she's out and she's freezing her ass off and she's like literally decides, screw this, I'm going back inside the lodge. And then just as she turns around, then she hears the horses.
Yeah.
And now she gets, whoa, no, here's a chance. And so I took it as she went down there because she was going to try and capture them.
Yeah. She was going to try, like, and thinking on her feet, try to do something that involved, taking a hostage to try and get into the, you know what I mean? Like, she's trying to, like, create a situation that would work best. And yeah, I do think that, like, she was probably going to observe for a little bit, but really her idea was to try and, capture whoever these people were going by.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out that way, did it?
No. When she comes up to that cliff and I'm watching and I'm like, you're not going to try and go down that, are you? And then she's like, I'm going to try and go down this. And you're just like, oh, God. It's just,
Yeah, it did not work out well for her. Yeah. I mean, she's... Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it turns out so badly she loses her machine gun.
Yeah.
In the process,
Yeah.
right? You know, I mean, and that's yeah. So yeah, it's bad. It was almost comical to me because she is kicking the snow to try and make footholds.
Yep.
And and I'm like, so you're gonna try and climb down, and we should point out if you haven't seen it, this is a very almost vertical drop she's trying to go down.
Yeah, it totally is. It's crazy, and what's crazy too is she does lose her machine gun, but come to find out in the later scene too, she had a sidearm, a small handgun, and she loses that as well because she reaches for it. And it's not there.
Yeah, and it's gone. Yeah.
And that was
Ugh.
So she's trying to slide down. She's kicking little footholds in to sort of create a spot for her to climb down. But unfortunately, snow doesn't like to stay still like that.
It really doesn't.
Yeah. So So she ends up, kicking a spot, and it just unleashes a whole chunk of snow, and she loses all of her footing, and away she goes. But she doesn't just away she goes. First of all, she's lucky she lived to tell the tale. She finishes, and she's at the bottom, and it's son of a bitch. And she's like, yeah, but what's that sticking out of the snow over there? Yeah.
That hand.
And
right?
I think
but to me, the best one was the clicker.
I thought that was great. So there's the hand sticking out, and she looks further and realizes that there are other things sticking out of the snow, and the fact that it's a clicker. It's so. I mean, if it was someone who was just an infected, and maybe from far away you couldn't tell if they were infected, you just see a face or whatever. But this is a full-on clicker with the eyes covered and everything, and completely covered in cordyceps on the top. And so it's obvious what all of these things are that are poking out. And when she realizes and is like, oh shit, and it wasn't until the clicker that she's looking at starts to shift slightly. And it's not the actual clicker moving. It's all of the dead that are underneath, the infected, starting to move and come out because they've been disturbed, and they know that there's something out there that they can go after.
Yeah. They can eat. Yeah, and we should point out that one of the reasons why the drill is happening back in Jackson, Jesse explains, is that a couple people went out on patrol and they found a bunch of frozen infected. And then he says, and then underneath them were 30 still alive infected, and they were using the dead ones as insulation to survive the cold.
Which they had not seen before.
And Right. And it's that and the combination of and I'm going to use air quotes, ghost story that someone told the council about a smart infected, the stalker, right? That those two things are why they're on high alert, which again, thank God they were. But so we as the viewers, we've got that little nugget in our brain of, oh yeah, we just heard that the infected will use dead infected on top of them to keep them warm. And so Abby then, she's looking around, and she realizes very quickly that not only is there infected in front of her, but she's in the middle of a whole
of them.
Graveyard of dead, frozen infected.
It becomes way more than what you think it's going to be, because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them that are underneath. But even if you account for the ones that you could see, a shoulder, part of an arm, part of an elbow, part of a whatever, there's still probably a good 100 of them close to the surface. So it is scary no matter what. And then it just compounds the scary as soon as they start coming out. And
she just starts running.
And I like the attention to detail. I noticed it the second time I watched through, is that the attention to detail is that they've got a really great crane or drone shot from above that shows them sort of scrambling out from underneath all of the infected. And if you watch, you can see all of the ones that are on the top either are fully dead, or they are sort of like frozen and incapacitated, and they push those ones off to the side and like push them away so that they can then move on and go. But those other ones that are on top, they never move. They're just exactly what they were saying. They're either dead or they're in some kind of, maybe they slowed all the way down. Maybe they're frozen and need to defrost. I don't know. But
you do have to put vegetables in the microwave sometimes.
They were immobile, and they kept them immobile. They were just covering. They pushed them out, they pulled the pile out, and as they pile out and go, those ones stayed. So it's just a nice attention to detail there that you see that, they said anecdotally in the story that they were like, yes, these ones were on top and were covering the others and keeping them, safe from the elements, safe from the cold and whatever. And that's exactly what it was. And you see it play out in front of your face. So just incredible detail. But I couldn't help but put waking up a herd. Way to go, Abby. Welcome to Jackson Hole.
Good job. Yeah. Well, and doesn't Jesse say something like, once the people, the patrol that found the ones hiding under them, he said that now they're worried they don't know how many of them are under the snow. And he says, could be 100, could be 1,000. And Ellie's like, yeah, like 1,000. Sure.
But I do like that, they were talking about that instance. Ellie does have respect for moments when it can be scary because, Jesse's telling the story and there's it came upon whatever it was 4 or 5 were the ones that were up top. And she was like, you and I, we could take care of that many. Yeah. And then they moved and there was 30 that came out underneath. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's different. She still thinks they could.
Did they get away? And Jesse's like, yeah, they came back and an armed group went out and took care of them. But,
right.
So yeah, you're right. She did have that oh wait, were they all right?
She does have respect for the moments of wow, that's more than a two-person patrol should be able to handle, and she had reverence for that moment of well, that's a lot. So yeah, so 30's a lot, and I would then suffice to say that the 1,000 that Abby has now uncovered will probably be a lot as well.
Oh my God.
So
yeah. So, and I should just point out that in the game you play Abby and I think she, in the game she wants to ambush a horse patrol, and so you're playing her and you're kind of walking through the woods, and the infected do start showing up out of the snow and just in general. Not nearly as many as that, but oh my God! I mean, and they're coming from all over, and they're these are sprinter people. These are not the shamblers from The Walking Dead, and it's as Abby, you have a pistol and you can try and shoot them, but it takes several shots to put one down. You aim for the head, which by the way is the name of our podcast. Which is what you should do. You should do at all times, but it's hard to do that, and you only have 12 bullets on you total, so pretty much as Abby in the game, you're just running as fast as you're hitting the sprint button and running and just trying to run away, and it's kind of like a maze. It's like a labyrinth where it's snow on the ground, it's a whiteout sky, and then you have trees and stuff that kind of stick out, so you don't really know where you're going. And I can't tell you how many times I died because I'll be running and suddenly I'll come up to you go right or left, and you just pick one, and one of them will go a little bit and then it's a dead end and then you're dead, and you keep and you're just blindly running, and eventually you come up to that building that she comes up to.
Yeah.
And you scale the fence and you get over and you're kind of on the inside, but then they're all around the fence and they're banging on the walls and you're just like, we got to keep moving. And then the scene with the chain link fence.
Yeah.
And again, straight out of the game, and oh my God, it was terrifying because she's looking in the windows of the building trying to see if there's a way in or anyone's in there, so she has her back to the fence,
right.
And when all of those infected just smash into it, oh my God. And then you're crawling on the ground and like they're pushing. Oh my God. It was just so intense. I mean, what was your reaction when you saw that scene?
Well, it reminded me, I was immediately taken back to Rick and the gang at the prison when the fence started to go and they were all sort of trying to hold it up, but that was multiple people and they were coming up with like a pole to try and hold it in place and whatever, and it's like, and this is the opposite. This is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of infected and one person, and it's so tight, and you're like, and there's this one moment where they the camera shows an infected's hand on the chain link, and he's reaching through. Oh,
I love that scene.
And the chain link is cutting through like the webbing of his finger, and so it's like just basically gonna eventually cut his finger right off just because he's trying to like stretch his hand through. It's gross and awesome.
The chain link is like halfway through his palm.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's
good.
how far he's pushed it. Yeah, I mean, and I got to tell you that was a very hard scene for me to watch. Okay.
I thought you had eye trauma, or is it finger trauma?
Finger trauma, and this wasn't technically fingers; it was palm, but it was close enough, people.
It was pretty graphic. It was pretty well done.
Oh, yeah. And again, it's straight out of the game in that you're crawling and the fence is getting pushed in and you're getting it like it's like the space is contracting, and just before you reach the edge where you can get away, the fence breaks open and a ghoul, I always say ghoul, an infected person gets on top of you. And when that happens, when you're grappling, you have to like hit one of the buttons of the controller as fast as you can to kind of try and push them off. And you're struggling, and it doesn't look like you're going to make it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to die and it's going to reset. And then literally the revolver gets put right up to the head of the infected and bang. And then you get the tinnitus, the ringing, the sound goes away, all of that, and then suddenly you hear Joel say, literally saying, "Come with me if you want to live," and Joel saves Abby. I mean, talk about ironies, right? And you run into the building and you lock the door, and of course then in the game it's more of a siege. There's a puzzle you have to solve to find a way out of that building that's not the door you just bolt it up and so on. But I mean it was so spot on, and that scene is just, I mean, again, we, going into this thing, I mean, I know, but like for you, I can only imagine you don't know who Abby is. You have no loyalty to her. And, maybe they're going to kill her right there, right? I mean, she certainly looked like she was going to die because she's an idiot,
Yeah, absolutely. I also like, just as that scene is kind of unfolding too, the background information is that, there's this storm coming. All of the patrols are kind of cut off communication-wise, but they've all checked in. They're either coming back early or they're holding up where they are. And the only one they haven't heard from is Joel and Dina. And, Tommy freaks out and he's like, keep trying every 10 seconds. So not only is Amy is the one who runs the radio room, not only is she trying that, but she's also trying on other channels. So trying to see, like, has somebody else seen them or whatever. So Jesse hears it, and he's like, what? And they're like, and Amy's like, we haven't been able to get in touch with Joel and Dina. Have you guys heard from them? And I loved the way that scene panned out, because Jesse and Ellie don't say a word to each other. As soon as they know that they haven't checked in, they both immediately grab their shit and run. And they run to the garage where they've left the horses. They both are talking out a plan of, do you know that mine? Yes, you go here, you go there, blah, blah, blah. We'll meet in the middle, go. And I just thought that was just such a wonderful scene that shows, because all we've seen of Jesse and Ellie so far is like that teenager, young people giving each other shit every time they see each other and all of that. But there's actual caring there. There's community there. There's, these are people that we want to help out as much as we can. We care about them and love them. So it just...
These are people that we both want
Yes,
to kiss.
exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Come on.
But it's like there didn't need to be any words of, hey, we need to go. Like, we didn't need to see the scene where Ellie has to convince Jesse, I'm going out there, I don't care what you do, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Because in any other show that would have happened.
No,
they just immediately go
Right.
into action because they're professional, but they also have a heart. And they know, listen, we've got a limited amount of time before we can try and get to them because of this storm and the wind, yada, yada. But we do have a window, and if we go right now, we can try. So they do. And I just thought that was such a fantastic scene. I just wanted to mention it because I liked how they were both of the same mind in that one moment. It was really well done. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's great is that Ellie is basically telling him, I'm going to stuff as much weed into my backpack as I can carry.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're not. And he's like, no, you're not. And then she goes, look, we all know that someday you're going to be running Jackson. You're going to be in charge.
I thought that was an interesting
but he's
comment.
But that isn't
Yeah,
today. Yeah. So it just shows you, clearly what it shows me is that Ellie has, her observation is that Jesse is looked at as he's the the favored son who's going to inherit the kingdom at some point, right? He's going to be one of the future leaders when Maria and Tommy, when they step down because they're too old or they're dead or whatever. He's one of the guys that, assuming he's alive, is going to be in charge because he's responsible and he's, good at what he does and all these things. And so she's kind of messing around with him. And you're right in the middle of that, that call comes in, and you're right. It goes from we're joking around and kind of, not taking things too seriously to everything's very serious. And they get on the horses and it's like, the trail they need to go goes around the mountain. And so he's like, I'll go one way, you go the other. And he's like, you have, regardless of whether you find Joel or not, you have to get to the mine entrance in 20 minutes because otherwise you're going to die from the exposure, so he's like, Ellie, I'm not kidding. And she's like, I know. Yeah. And off they go, so you're right. It was very interesting that they're joking around and it's all a big game. And then suddenly, dead serious. Exactly. Let's go. Yeah.
And meanwhile, while they're trying to do that, Joel and Dina are trying to plot a way to get out of there. They decide, look, we can stay here and die, or we can go out there and die. So our choices are, limited. And that's when Abby, who realizes in that moment, she knows who Joel is. She says, Dina says the name, so she knows who she's in front of. But in that moment, she realizes, I have to make this offer because we're all going to die. So she says out loud, my friends and I are staying in a lodge. It's just a little ways up the mountain. I can lead you there. And if they're off the mountain by the, some sort of thing where, if there aren't as many up on the mountain, we've got a better shot, yada, yada. And
well, she says something like, if they're all down here, maybe that means there aren't any up there or something. Some kind of, which makes a bit of sense. If they've all woken up and are running towards us here, they might not be. Yeah, but Joel's like, she points out that her friends are all armed and they have, medical supplies, and we can go up there and we can recover and then we can, make it to Jackson and kind of thing. But you're right. As soon as she hears Dina yelling, Joel, she's just like, son of a bitch, I won the Last of Us lottery.
Exactly. So they head out, and that's a tense scene. They're on the horses, and they're going as fast as they can, and not only is there one herd, but then a second herd gets woken up as well and goes to join the other. But meanwhile, back in Jackson, they show the scene of the pipe again, where they're, continuing on with the work they're doing on this house. And this one guy goes up to the exterior pipe and is banging away at it. and oh God, there's branches and whatever, because this was just yesterday that this had happened, and he pulls out the branches and he sees the cordyceps. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And he knows what it means, and he immediately goes to find Tommy. You can hear him in the back. He's like, Tommy, whatever. Mm-hmm. But by doing what he did, by making contact with those tendrils speak to the infected that are on the mountain, and they change their course, and they head toward where that network is, which is inside Jackson. So they are being summoned, as it were, to Jackson, and they leave them alone and go running off. So they're saved by, the cordyceps in the in the pipe, but yeah, kind of it's, they're helped out by it, but it pivots them to go toward the town instead. So that's, not good. So.
Yeah, it's an amazing scene though, because the two horses, it's kind of a long shot, and the two horses are in front, and there's this, there's got to be, hundreds of infected running behind them, and then you see like another group of hundreds running down the mountain towards them, and then the group that's going down the mountain turns away from the horses, and then the group that's pursuing the horses turns and follows them, and they form like one massive group. And the only thing that struck me a little weird is like, why didn't Joel turn around and go, wait, they're not following us anymore, and then turn around and try and go back to Jack. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, we're out of the woods now. We can try and, get back to Jack. But he doesn't. Obviously there's no story if he does that. But yeah, that whole sequence, that they're right on their tails and it doesn't look good. And then suddenly we cut to the guy, and he uses the hoe and he rips all the roots out, and there are the cordyceps tendrils, and they're all kind of, kind of quivering and moving, right? And that guy has that look on his face like, well, that ain't good.
I've seen these before, and they don't bode well.
That's right. Go get Earl. Just don't let him shoot himself. And yeah. So, but again, the way that Craig Mazin is building up the suspense here and the stakes is great, right? In that first you're just worried about Abby,
right?
And then you're worried about Abby and Joel and Dina, and then you're worried about those three and Jesse and Ellie, because they're now looking for them. And then, and again, this is for those 6-7 people, that horde's going to crush them. They have no shot. For sure. You know what I mean? And then the second horde shows up, and you're like, oh my God. And then suddenly, like you said, they all turn, and they're making a straight march to Jackson. And now you're like, oh my God, now the whole town is in jeopardy. Oh my God, it's incredible. And you are kind of like inching closer to the edge of your seat as you're watching this episode.
And then it pivots to this great moment where it shows one of the guys on the fence, and he's looking through the binoculars, and he's like, hey, is that there's something like in the distance, and da-da-da. And it's hard to see because, again, there is this storm that's coming in. So there's snow happening. There's, like, windy conditions. So it's not the best visibility. So he's, like, adjusting. Is there something there? Are there people there? Is there something? I can't. And then when it becomes clear, oh, my God. And then, that's
ring the bell. Ring the bell.
And they ring the bell.
Yeah.
And it's from there on in, it's just unbelievable balls to the wall action.
Yeah. Yeah. When he's looking through the binoculars, I almost expected him to be like, I spotted Imperial walkers.
Exactly.
But the one comment that also kind of jumped into my head during all of these scenes, both in Jackson and out on the mountaintop, is I'm like, Tommy and Joel, what the hell, man? Put on a gosh darn hat. Did that not bother you? I'm like, all the other characters are like, oh my God, it's freezing out here. You know, Ellie, what did she say? Like, she's been on the horse for 30 seconds. She can't feel her butt anymore. It's so cold, you know, and clearly Abby is like, when she walks out to go on watch, she's like, oh my God, you know, and yet there's Joel and Tommy. And I'm like, what do you guys, you know, there's no, what do you at least have earmuffs, do something, you know, it's just, this is not your first winter. How are you guys out there without a hat? That was just a weird choice. And I guess they want to show off the you know, the mane, right? They want to show off these great heads of hair these two guys have. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, put on a damn hat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So the battle of Jackson Hole, as it will henceforth be called, there's a couple of different, like, phases. There's like the prep phase. Everybody runs to where they need to go. They get the guns. They come up on the roofs. All the people go downstairs. Tommy runs up and down the streets on a horse and is like, get inside, get inside, get inside. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but the second time through I saw that they put 2 pickup trucks up against the gate to shore it up, and then they put chucks behind the wheels to give it even more bracing, so that there's, you know, that the doors are held no matter what. And so then they unleash these like little slides, I guess you could call them. They've got all these barrels up there, and then once, you know, Tommy raises, you know, the battle cry of Jackson Hole, they all start shooting, and you know, and that's phase 1, and they're shooting at all of them, and then he has them throw the barrels out. The barrels then slide out, and they're, you know, they end up resting a little bit of ways away from the gate, away from the wall, but then they start shooting at that, and then it leaks, you know, gasoline all over the place, and then they throw you know, fire at there, like little, you know, clubs that had like fire, and they throw them on there, and they light them all up. I only had one quibble with the fight, and it had nothing to do with like I thought the plan they have in place, you know, the people on the roofs shooting down and all that, like the way they planned everything out, just great, you know. Utilizing the fire, because the fire can slow them down, and actually it works on them, it kills them. Like, all of that is all really smart, but I was curious what you felt about, there wasn't a single person that was using a bow and arrow. And I thought that was interesting. And I understand, like, this is a video game, and in a video game there's, you know, unlimited ammo. And it felt like they had unlimited ammo too, you know, but also, like, bullets are a thing that, yes, you can make, but you have to continue to make them, and you go through them quickly. I feel like arrows are a thing that can be used, and they pack quite a punch, but they, you know, they're a lot easier to replenish, it seems to me. I don't know, like, I just, that's the one thing I noticed, was there wasn't even a single person using a bow and arrow, or you know, any kind of arrows. Did you notice that at all, or did it bother you in any way?
Yeah. I guess I don't know. It didn't. I didn't. I noticed that everybody had a gun of some sort, and they had like crates of like M16s and stuff that they were cracking out and giving to everybody. Yeah. So it didn't really bother me, because I don't know enough about Jackson itself and what their capabilities are. I mean, it's huge, of course, right? Yeah. It's a massive city, and they probably have the ability to produce their own ammunition.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
You know, so I think if it's me and I'm gonna try and set up the defense of my city, like that, and it's like, well, I have the ability to produce as many bullets as I need, so ammunition is not a priority. It's not like, oh my God, we only have 3 bullets, we got to save them. It's not that dire. It's more like, no, we have enough ammunition to survive a major battle or whatever. Then I would put all my resources into doing that rather than getting bows and arrows and training people how to shoot bows and arrows. You know what I mean? It's just like I would go with the more modern tech because it's more reliable and it's more effective and so on. So it didn't really bug me. The thing that bugged me more than that was why is there no 30 or 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns on that fence? I mean, they're clearly, you can go get them. They're all over the place because all the military's dead, right? Why do they not have some mortars and things? Because, the way Jackson is set up, you have this massive open area you have to cross to get up to the walls. And let's face it, the infected people they're just running in this massive group, which is what those kind of weapons were designed to inflict maximum casualties on. You just fire, you don't even have to aim the machine guns. You just, load them and pull the trigger, right? I mean, and the same thing. It just seems to me it's like, wow, you know what? You guys had a great plan, but why would you wait until they get right up to the walls before you start trying to mess with them? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you want to try and destroy them as far away from the walls as you could? So that, again, that's what I would do, right? Is that, at some point from when season 1 ended and where we are now, I would have been like, we should go find an army base nearby that's clearly abandoned, and let's get some heavy weapons and set them up, just for that reason. So that was the thing about the battle. The only thing about the battle that bothered me. I loved the throwing the barrels out, and I loved that they shoot them full of holes and then they set them on fire, and some great pyrotechnic effects, with the infected blowing up and getting on fire and all that. I mean, it was spectacular to watch. I mean, super amazingly cool. Not in the game at all. Not even a hint of that in the game. But oh my God, was it exciting to watch. And then when they veer away from the gate and they move down to just part of the wall, and Tommy immediately is like, oh crap, they're gonna breach.
Well, as soon as he sees the bloater, he knows that they're gonna breach.
Yeah, oh yeah, and then immediately he is running on the street, which by the way, he said is the one place you don't want to be. I just want to point that out. He's immediately like, they're going to break through, get ready. And so then all those people inside that are all armed to the teeth, they're now ready to go and start shooting when they start coming down the streets and stuff. So yeah, it was amazing. The bow and arrow thing, I see your point, but I guess I'm just going to go with, well, if they have enough bullets, I would rather equip everybody with guns. So it didn't really bother me.
I was okay with it.
But
it dawned on me, there was that they made a point of showing in one of the scenes where spent bullets were dropping on the ground, and there were just hundreds of them.
All the casings.
And obviously you can take those, and if you've got the means, you can refill them all. So I'm sure that's next part of their whole thing. To me, I always feel like a good well-rounded battle includes some other, I used to bitch about Walking Dead as well. Why wouldn't you just use a pokey stick and just poke down at the infected, the dead that are there? And I would also say the same thing to them. You can literally just poke down and just, poke and get a bunch of people. And obviously, like you said, guns are the best version, and it keeps it at least and mostly will keep the action away from you. I was looking for an extra layer of battle gear, I guess. But I mean, they brought it with having shoulder harness powered flamethrowers. I mean, that was not on my bingo card.
Yeah. No, that was very cool. I also I did when let me ask you this. When they showed the bloater, did you not almost expect him to be holding this like very, very weird looking flaming torch and have him go running and screaming and jump into the gunpowder and blow up the fence?
He did. I thought that was possible. Yeah.
And like I expected Tommy to be like, that one, take down that one, and then everyone's shooting at it and it's not going down, and then and I was waiting for like the Helm's Deep moment there. I'm like, okay.
Although I do appreciate, if you think about it, Tommy was smart enough to know as soon as he saw the bloater and that they were all sort of rallying around the bloater, he knew that. The bloaters themselves are hard to take down because all of the, everything is sort of calcified. They have like almost like scales on the outside, and they're like really hard to take down with bullets. So he knew, I can either stand here and just shoot and not get anywhere, or I can run and go and get the flamethrower, because that's one of the only things that'll actually take down a bloater. So they're taking their knowledge and using it, which sometimes in the heat of battle you see people make stupid mistakes, but he calculated, he's like, okay, I've this amount of time, he's gonna break through, he's not being cute about it, he's being realistic, it's gonna happen, so we just gotta prepare for it. So him jumping off and running down the street and then grabbing his own flamethrower backpack just means like he's ready for the next phase of the battle. But did you notice too, when they put on the black packs and they've got the flamethrowers, there's 4 guys, they're standing there, they're ready to go, and as the horde comes around the corner and heads towards them, the first one guy and then a second guy, they totally peel off and they're gone.
Oh, they're like, screw this, let's go. Yeah, they did. It was again, just anytime a flamethrower is used, you have my cold and dead heart feels warm inside just from the thing. Just from that, you're like, oh yeah, and yet they looked like they were homemade, which was really neat. Like they looked like the town constructed them rather than military issue or whatever. So yeah, that was really cool. But then then it sets up the like, I like how you put it, the like the big final boss sequence.
Yeah. It's perfect. I mean, think about, first of all, Tommy gets in a dead end, and this is someone who knows his town, and he still ran down like the wrong alleyway, and he's stuck and he can't go anywhere. Although it's funny because there were like boxes there, and it looked like such a thing out of a video game where it's like, do A, B squared or whatever, and the back button, the forward button, and you'll be able to pick up one of those boxes and throw it, or climb up the boxes and scale the wall, or jump in a window up above. So it was funny because it looked like it was going to play out as like this absolute video game scene the way it was. He's in this dead end, there's boxes, yada yada. But he like holds his ground, and I love how Tommy's just like, he's accepted the fact that like, I am probably going to die in this moment. I'm going to fight my ass off to try and keep this bloater away from my, my family and my friends. And I'm going to do everything I can, but it's not looking good for me. And his reaction is he just digs his feet in, and he's like, ah, and he yells out loud, and I was like, okay, well, you don't want to tell them which way you ran, you ding-dong. But he yells anyway, and the bloater, none of the other dead come toward him, the infected, and it's just the bloater, and it's great, because it's like, he's using the flamethrower, but they show the dial, and you're like, oh god, he's gonna run out. He's gonna run out.
It's running out. Oh yeah. And the bloater's just like kind of walking through the flame and getting closer and closer.
Yes.
And so then Tommy stops and then retreats a little further and then turns around and shoots him again. And that's when he literally runs out of gas. And the flamethrower dies, and that's when Tommy, he's on the ground, and he just closes his eyes, well, I had a good run.
Yeah, this is the end for me.
Yeah. Oh, and then the bloater is ready to rip him to shreds, and all of a sudden it just kind of goes, and then face plants right next to him, and it's hissing from all the the fact that it's all been burned and crispy.
Yeah.
It was an amazing sequence.
And I love the way
mean,
they showed like the detail of the bloater being like he's basically one big like red hot coal in his center. And like the areas around like the actual scaly stuff is all like the way it's like sort of glowing, like you would have a fire glow at the end of the night when the fire's out, but you've got all the embers and they sort of undulate and glow and flicker and whatever, and it's just this orange color, and it's exactly what's going on with the bloater. It's just really well done, like special effects on that. It just looked amazing. And yeah, it was like a final boss fight, because isn't that what would happen in a video game? Is you just like, you're up against the wall, you're using every last bullet in your arsenal, and you're just about to run out, and you're like, oh, the last little bit helped. Oh, thank God.
No, I did it. I just barely did it. Yeah. And I can tell you, fighting bloaters in the game, it takes a lot to kill them. Yeah. The other thing, which is a game thing that they don't do, at least they haven't done yet here, is that the bloaters in the game, they shoot like clouds of spores.
Oh.
At you. Ugh. And even if you're Ellie, it doesn't, you don't get infected, but it hurts you, like your health bar is reduced, and so they have kind of a ranged weapon with these like spore clouds they can shoot, and then they're huge. If they get up to you, they smash you and punch you and hurt you that way too. So yeah, pain in the ass whenever I run into bloaters. In the game, one of the things Ellie can build are these like mines. And whenever I see them, I'm like, throw the mines out, and then you like trick the bloater into running into them and blowing up, and that helps a lot. But yeah, total pain in the ass, and captured that beautifully in that scene, and that like you said, Tommy like uses every weapon he has, every round, everything, and it just barely works. He just barely makes it. It's like, oh fuck. So
I like to I didn't include the note, but I was talking about how they used like a mixture of things. They've got the flamethrowers, they're using the guns, they're using the gas cans or whatever, but Maria has the moment where she runs across and she unleashes the hounds.
Unleash the hounds. Yes, Mr. Burns.
But they're all it's all German shepherds, it looked like, and they just are trained appropriately, and they go to town and they start trying to take down all of the infected. It's really, really interesting to watch.
Like running and like leaping into an infected that's running at them and just colliding, and then you see them and they're like ripping their throats out. And so, I mean, it was very intense. And dogs are in the game, but usually they're the bad guys have them, and so you'll get a guy and he'll have a dog on a leash, and like the dog will get the scent, and so you're like hiding somewhere, and the dog will slowly start moving towards you, and then you're like, crap, and then you can like throw stuff, like you can pick up bottles like Ellie did in episode 1 and throw stuff, and it'll make noise, and that'll kind of distract them for a while. But yeah, the dogs are a pain in the ass, because no matter what great hiding spot you have, they get your scent, and they're like lead them right to you. So yeah. So anyway, that was a cool sequence. That was very, very intense.
So only one more scene to go. And it's just, someone dies, but that's it. That's all. We don't have anything to talk about.
It's no big whoop.
Yeah.
It's no big. Yeah. It's coffee, dogs, and daughters.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk. How?
Do you need to get out some tissue?
No, I'm fine. I'm cold and dead inside. I'm fine.
All right.
I'm curious, like, first of all, it's a brutal death, and it's a brutal death scene, like the way they filmed it and everything. The fact that Ellie has to watch him die, just there's so much brutality, but they took the time. There's a couple of tiny moments of like the fact that when she's yelling and she says, get up, Joel, get up, and he lifts his head a little bit, which means he could hear her. So it's just a nice little moment there, so you know that they had like a final moment there. And just, I love too, before she even gets started with like beating him with the golf club, you know, she's telling him the whole story and whatever. And then when he's like, "I'll just fucking get on with it, would you?" Because he knows
shut up and get.
He knows he's dead. You know, they'd already put Dina down, and put her to sleep, so nobody's coming to rescue him, and he knows that. They're stuck in the middle of this. He knows the protocols for all the people. He also could see like nobody's paying attention to what's going on out in the world, because he is he can see out the window that there's fire by Jackson, you know. So so there's that. My niece is here and she's knocking on the door, and I literally have to I don't want to stop recording, but I'm so mad right now because there are adults downstairs who have let her come upstairs. So yeah. He knows the finality of him knowing that nobody's coming, and knowing that that he's gonna die, and he's just like, he doesn't want it to drag out. He doesn't want the pain. He doesn't want it to end like that. And so it's a scene, you know, it's sad and it's terrible, but it's also like there's some he's still present in that moment. Like, he's still Joel in that moment, you know, and his ornery and etc. But what did you think of because you knew it was coming, so as soon as it starts playing out, you know how it's going to end, but what did you think of the whole scene itself, you know, leading all the way up to the end?
Well, yeah, I should say I didn't know how it was going to end, because I was under the impression that they were not going to kill him. So, you know, I mean, I know how the game did it, and I have to admit, I'm like, well, they're following the game pretty close here, but I really did not think that they were going to kill him. I just, again, star of the show, right? And I just thought, no, they will. This is the deviation that they talked about, that they're going to, you know, not quite follow as closely. And so I kept waiting for, you know, her, like, I thought she would start to torture him, and then something would happen, and they're like, we got to go, and we're taking him with us, you know, and then off they go, right? And that's how I thought they were going to do it. But you know, it is, with the exception of Dina being there and not Tommy, it's exactly out of the game. They come back, they go inside, Abby introduces everybody and then says, you know, this is Tommy and this is Joel, and all of the people like look at Joel like, really? You know, and then they subdue Tommy and they pull guns on him, and literally she doesn't do the whole "it was my dad" speech. That's not in there, but she talks about the fireflies and so on, and she shoots him in the leg with the shotgun, and then she, you know, and he's like, get it over with, and she literally says, no, you know, this is going to be slow, and she pulls out the you know, the 8-iron or whatever club it is from the golf bag. And so, yeah, I mean, you know that she is literally relishing this moment. And you know, they like, you know, she, in the show, she says all the stuff about, you know, the group she's with, they have a code, and the code is you don't kill anyone that is, you know, unarmed or, you know, unable to defend themselves or something like that. And then she basically says, but I'm going to kill you now because we both know that code or not, you know, it's bullshit and you deserve it. And, you know what I mean? Like the anger that she has is just coming out. Right. And that she's going to, you know, she's going to kill, not only is she going to kill him, she's going to really, you know, relish killing him. And again, he's just, oh, hello. And she's like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's just like, oh, whatever, just do it, and like quit wasting my time here, and it's funny because I had a little sense of something I talked about on The Walking Dead all the time, which is all of these people that think that like their suffering is somehow worse than everyone else's, and that makes them special.
Right.
You see, I mean, and I just kept waiting for Joel to be like, well, little girl, grow up. All right. Yeah, your dad died, but you know what? Your dad was going to kill my daughter in that surgery. Just flat out kill her. Yeah. Okay. So I killed him. And you know what? Somebody killed my daughter like 20 years ago when this started. Okay. Everybody here suffered something horrible. Get the hell over it and, you know what I mean? Move on. Right. But he doesn't. He just kind of sits there and lets her talk. I think it's really interesting that he does point out that he saved her life. Yeah. And that fact, that buys him absolutely nothing with her. She doesn't care. Yeah. Not that would completely right the scales and she's like, oh yeah, you can go, we're even. No, but I mean, it gets him nothing. Yeah. She's just like, I don't care. It's just intense, that whole sequence. And for me, watching it, knowing what the game did, I'm like, how far are they going to go? Yeah. Because again, at this point, I'm like, they're not going to kill him. How far are they going to go? They're not going to kill. Okay, it looks like they're killing him, but they're not going to kill him. Right. I literally was like, no, it's not going to happen. And then it happened, and I was just like, holy crap. Yeah. And you just start having these thoughts about, just the TV show itself. It's like, okay, they just killed the star of the show. Right. How is that going to work? Right. Is he going to be in the credits next week? You know what I mean? Is it going to be like Walking Dead? I mean, yeah, it's just, it was again, name me another show where episode 2 of a season, the main character's dead.
I know. And someone made a comment too that, HBO is really good at killing off Pedro Pascal in the most brutal ways that they possibly can. Although, to be fair, the brutality of this one is more that Ellie had to witness the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that's the most brutal part about the whole thing. And he was aware that she was there, which was beautiful at first because he lifted his head like he was going to try and get up and whatever. But he also, in his last moments, also knows like, oh my God, she's going to have to watch me die. And you know what I mean? So yeah, it was, but in his death in Game of Thrones was, about 10 times more brutal than what just happened in this show. So, yeah.
Well, gee, thanks for spoiling it for me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to say too that literally in the game, she shoots him and then he's like, just over with, and she's like, no, you're gonna suffer, and literally she picks the golf club up, and then it cuts, and suddenly you're playing Ellie and you ride up to the lodge, and it's deserted. There's nobody there outside or anything, and you literally have to like walk around until you find like a window or a back door that you can get in. And just like in the game, like parts of it looked like it was being like redone, right? They had like all the saws and the tools and the bare wood in that one room, and the tarps, the plastic was up, so it looked like before the world ended, whoever owned that was like redoing one of the rooms. So that's all the same. And then as Ellie, as you're walking through this house, just like in the show, you start hearing this like, and then you hear this, and it's very muffled because it's coming from another part of the house. And again, as the player, you're like, oh my God, that's Joel. And, literally Abby is beating him to death with this golf club. And just like in the show, you find this door and you open it up and you see Abby and she's beating Joel, and you rush in, and then immediately Manny, which is the Latino guy in that group, grabs you. Yep. And you you don't have any, it's not anything you do. It's like a cut scene, and you cut him with your switchblade.
Right.
And Manny loses his shirt and is like, this girl's going to die. And literally, just like we see, everybody like stops him, and they're all saying like, no, we're only here to kill Joel. That's it. And you're, Abby or Ellie is like, Joel, get up. And, then she, basically says, don't do this. And the difference here is that in the show, the golf club has broken, right? Because Abby's been beating him so hard with it. And she like picks up the shaft and just like stabs him in the neck for like the death blow.
Right.
Right. And in the game, the golf club is still intact. It's a full club. And she literally, like winds up and just cracks him right in the head and kills him. I mean, it's like, it is a kill shot. And then like in the show, they just leave, and Ellie is just there, and she kind of crawls over, right? And she kind of grabs his hand and they're very, very close to each other, and you get that drone shot looking directly down on the two of them and so on. In the game, they decide to leave, and Manny, this guy that she cut in the forehead, he kicks her right in the face, and everything smashes to black.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up, and it's, time has passed, and Jesse or someone has found her, and so on. And I think you're actually back in Jackson when it comes back. You don't have the scene of them dragging Joel's body back to Jackson like we do in this one. But yeah, I mean, it's intense. And when you're playing, when I was playing the game the first time, I was shocked and like in disbelief, well, they didn't kill him.
Right.
How can they kill Joel? And this is what I was talking about. One of the things I was talking about last week, where there was some backlash from the fans when the game came out.
Okay.
Because a lot of people were very unhappy because they liked the first game where you play Joel and you play Ellie, and they're together working as a team for a lot of the game. And a lot of people were very unhappy that they killed that character like that. And so yeah, I was, like I said, shocked when it happened in the game, doubly shocked when they did it for real on the show, because I just didn't see it coming. And let me ask you,
mm-hmm.
leading up to that scene, did you think that she was really going to kill him, or did you think that, he would somehow still be alive?
I thought
when Ellie crawled over to him.
Yeah. Well, they gave you so many outs in the, you know what I mean? Like, first of all, all of the people around her are like, oh my God, Abby, like everybody in that room is uncomfortable, except for maybe Manny. But everybody, the two girls and Owen are uncomfortable with all of the violence. They don't like it. It's excessive. They're not comfortable with anything that's going on. And then, so there's that. So I thought maybe one of the Fireflies would stop her at the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Ellie's there, and she sees what's happening and comes in, but then she's, but she put up a good fight, but you get her down on the ground. And then even after impaling him, I was like, cause she went so far as to pull it out. And I was like, she's going to pull it out and he's going to go, and whatever. And when that doesn't happen, and it's clear what's happened, and you're like, oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. It's devastating. And the fact that they used that crane shot from up above, showing her like sort of snuggled up on him. She literally puts her face right on his like bloody face and is holding his hand. And it's just so unbelievably sad. But I did like there were so many moments where I was like, they structured it so well where you just were like, no, they wouldn't. No, that'll happen, or the other thing will happen, or the other thing will happen. Okay, none of those things have happened. So they won't do this. They won't. They did it. Is he really gone? Is he really gone? He's really gone. Like, you had so many different moments where it could have changed or been different, but that they stuck to their guns, and it happened. It really happened. Just horrifying and all at the same, but just beautiful as well. Like, beautifully shot, Bella's emotions and everything. Just, it was just so well done. Yeah.
Well, and just, when before the death blow, when Ellie, very defiantly says, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill all of you."
Yeah. And I believe it.
For what. Yeah, right, you do. And that was kind of my note going, well, now we know what the rest of the series is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
And then I also thought it was a real interesting choice that after that happens, we get a shot of the Fireflies and they're walking away, and we get a shot of Abby, and she really doesn't look very happy. Like, here she's finally gotten her revenge, and she's sort of like, what did I just do? You know what I mean? It's like she has this kind of blank look on her face, or puzzled. You know what I mean? It's not like she's gleefully smiling and like, oh, I finally got that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's which you often hear that, right? That, revenge, you think it's going to, even the scales or clear the ledger, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because the person that you lost is still not going to be back.
Yeah.
And so on. And then we cut from that scene to the scene on the horses where Ellie is, Manny kicks Ellie in like the stomach and the chest, and like, you hear like the ribs crunch.
Oh, yeah.
So she's hurt.
Yeah.
She's got broken ribs and all that kind of stuff. And so she's trying to ride this horse and Jesse's, like sitting behind her on the saddle and is actually, steering the horse and stuff. But she's got this, she's like struggling with that. And then she looks back, and we see that they've wrapped Joel's body in like a sheet or something, and they're dragging it across the snow to bring it back to Jackson. And she has this like deer in the headlights look on her, like she's in shock. You know what I mean? Like, she just, what is happening? And it's just a real striking ending. And I like too that they have that little bit of music. They play, that like instrumental guitar song happens, and then when it cuts to black and we get the end credits, there's no music over the end credits. It's all silent. I thought that was very, very cool.
Yeah. If you have the closed captioning on, the only sound of any kind is there's some wind, like wind whistling, which I thought was really, because if you think about it, they're not saying a word while they go back to Jackson. There's not a word that passes between any of those three. Or
the Fireflies. They're not talking either.
Yeah, neither one's. I'm really curious to see how things shake out with the Fireflies after that happened, because I think even though they all signed on for it, I think the three that were uncomfortable, I think that's going to sow some discord or whatever, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out with them in particular, Okay. I mean, it's pretty obvious how it's going to play out with Ellie,
Yeah. Yeah. All I can say is over and alls on that.
Yep.
But I would just to let everybody know, the five Fireflies that are there, it's Abby, and then there's Owen, which is the guy with the beard who is coming up with the plans and stuff. And then you have Manny, which is the Latino guy. Then there's Mel, and she's the medic.
Yep.
She's the one that gives
eyes.
Dina the shot and is talking about the frostbite and stuff. And then the last one is Nora, and she's the girl with the shaved head.
Yep.
And that's the five people that now Ellie has marked for death, to quote a Steven Seagal movie.
Yeah, they will all die.
They will all die, and they'll all die screaming.
So we were talking about the music at the end, and just a really quick, I quoted the line from the music when we did the disclaimer at the front, but the thing that's interesting is that the song, it's a cover, and it's covered by, I'm gonna get her name wrong, I think it's Ashley Johnson. She's the one who played Ellie in the games.
The voice.
She's the voice of Ellie in the games, and she played Ellie's mom in that final episode there. And they had recorded a version to use for the game itself. They used a version of her singing this song in the game, but then they took, this is a new recording. They sort of blended some new vocals and some of the old stuff together to create this. And someone made a good point where they were like, so it's almost like in this moment that Ellie was with her mom and her dad in this sort of final moment, which I thought was really cute. Yeah, it just, I love little snippets that, like, it's perfect song to use. And obviously the title of it and the fact that they are, at the end, they're going through the valley to get home. How about that little extra detail on the wrappings for Joel, that there's like a blood splotch?
The blood stain,
just awful.
Yeah. Well, and they also, and if you watch the featurette on Max, they spend a considerable bit of it talking about all the prosthetics they did for Pedro to have the eye look like it was all swollen shut. And I mean, they like made full casts of his face and stuff. They spent a lot of time and Craig Mazin's like, we have to get this right. It has to look the right way or it's not going to work. And he looks brutalized when Ellie finally opens that door and sees him. He looks like, oh my God, this woman has been, and there also, we should point out, there's a scene where it's like Abby is on top of him and just punching him in the face over and over and over again. So she literally beat him to death. It's unbelievably brutal. Yeah, the scene where they're dragging the body and you can see like the head, where the head is, the blood is soaked through the sheet or whatever it is. Yeah, amazing little detail, no doubt.
It's crazy. Like, I feel like there's more we should talk about, but we really kind of covered everything. Is there anything on your list that you think we didn't spend enough time on, or did we skip over anything? I'm looking through mine, and I think I hit all of my stuff. How about you?
Yeah, I do too. Again, we could break down a lot of this for another hour. Easy.
Yeah.
Just again, like I said, if you're curious about how close to the game are they, everything with Joel and Ellie was straight out of the game, with the exception of Dina was not there. It was Tommy, and all the stuff in Jackson with the battle, completely new for the show. So and that's why they substituted. That's why Tommy wasn't there, because Tommy had to be back in the city to fight the battle.
Right.
So they put Dina in instead of him. So but that would be it. Other than that, again, a tremendous hour of television.
Oh God,
super powerful, and even for me, who I kind of knew it was coming, but it still hit me hard.
Unbelievable. Whew. All right. Well, that was a lot to hash out, but we did it. We made it through. We made it through. And I didn't even...
I sure hope it recorded.
You better knock some wood when you say that shit. Yeah. So that is going to do it for this section here. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, everybody. When we come back, we're going to discuss our listener feedback, our mounds of listener feedback we got for this episode.
God, we got a ton.
And what we have coming up next on the podcast.
So everyone, please get up, Joel, and stick around, because we'll be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally going to get in. You better get ready for it.
No! Diane, get behind me. No, it's not stopping.
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head.
What?
Aim for the head.
You heard them. Aim for the head.
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the best of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and apocalyptic entertainment. Aim for the Head, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Hi, I'm Ross Marquand, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And remember, always aim for the head, because body shots just don't work.
Hey everybody, we are back. We're going to get right to our listener feedback. Our mountain. It's like gonna knock us over. There's so much feedback. Dude, yeah, great. We're pretty excited.
Amazing. I couldn't believe. I was like, hold on. I looked at it. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's just like, this is so great.
It just keeps scrolling. Oh my god, there's more. So that being said, let's get right into it because there's so much to talk about. So first off, we got an email from our old pal Andy. Hey, Andy.
Hey, how you doing, Andy? Guten Tag.
Yeah, and Andy's just sort of checking in via the email. And letting us know, where he's been the last few months, as it were, and what he's watching and listening to right now. So, Andy writes in and says, "Hi, Diana and Steve. Sorry for not writing for so long. I am alive and kicking. That is good. I just got distracted. I totally get it." He says, "I watched Skeleton Crew instead of finishing Dune Prophecy because I thought it would be more fun, which was indeed the case." Sad. Then I started to listen to political podcasts instead of entertainment podcasts because of certain events. I don't know what you're speaking of.
Really, I don't understand that one at all.
Yeah, I don't either. Three Body Problem is not my cup of tea, but I will definitely watch The Last of Us Season 2, so I am finally on board again. Yay! And then he says, "Did you guys get a new intro, or is that just I haven't heard it in a while?" No, we got a new intro.
No, we got a new intro. We decided that since The Walking Dead is not actually a show on TV for, I don't know, 3 years now at least, we decided to kind of freshen it up. So yeah, you were not hallucinating there. So
we're more than an all Walking Dead universe. I mean, don't get me wrong, we still cover the universe, but we cover many, many other things now. So
like Last of Us.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a good example of that. So thank you for noticing, Andy. He continues and says, "I'm positively surprised by the first episode." So his feedback, he usually gets the episode a little bit later than we do over in Germany. So he has sent in feedback for last week's episode. And I'm sure in a day or two we'll get feedback for episode two, which we'll include next week.
You know it.
So he says, "I'm positively surprised by the first episode. I like it more than the start of season 1. It's like The Walking Dead when they reached Alexandria. No traveling around and killing people anymore. We shall see how long it lasts." About this point of view thing, I don't think viewers will automatically take a character's side just because things are depicted from the character's perspective. I just played the game on PC and it failed to make me like Abby, though it tried very hard. It will be interesting to see how good the series does in this, assuming they try the same. I'm totally with you about the stalkers, Steve. Such a pain in the ass. Always saved my shotgun shells for them.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Emoji. Yeah. He continues on to say, "The dead bear made me wonder if ever 6 infected would be able to defeat it. They kill humans by biting them, but the bear hide would probably be too thick that a human jaw could do serious damage. I don't see how they would rip its guts out. On the other hand, Ellie can hold down a guy 3 times her weight, so who knows?" Greetings from Germany, Andy. And he includes PS, technical detail with headphones. I only hear you guys from one side, Diana on the left, Steve on the right. It's irritating, like when the cable is broken and the sound is only on one side. I checked an older podcast and there both voices were centered. First of all, Andy, great to hear from you. We're so glad you're back, and and we're glad that you'll be sending in feedback for Last of Us. To address his point, yes, and Erica brought it up as well. When we lost our recording of the first part of the episode last week, we reverted back to an old method we used for recording, which does that and records it in stereo. One track is one voice, one track is the other voice. And back in the day, I used to convert that so that it was then in mono, so that you're getting both voices out of both ears. And I just forgot to do that because I was out of practice using the old recorder that we've used in the past. So thank you to everybody who listened through it, and my own little technical foible there. I will, of course, be fixing that this week, so you will not have to deal with that.
Yeah, I
So,
gotta apologize, guys. You know what? Good help is really hard to find, and unfortunately,
especially free help.
I have to put up with this, just like you. Okay.
Free help, free self-taught help. But yeah, so apologies. We were obviously, we had lost that first, the recording of the first half and needed to re-record, and I was wanting to get it edited and posted as quick as I could. So I heard it in each ear, but I was like, yeah, but when you usually when you export the file, it mixes it down to one track, but it doesn't do that as well unless you tell it to. And I forgot to tell it to. So it'll be fixed for this episode. So hopefully right now you're listening to me in both your ears and Steve in both your ears. So
better off Steve in both your ears and you in none of their ears. But we can work that out later. So.
Yeah, that's for another day. Thanks again, Andy, for writing in. We, like I said, we look forward to hearing from you during Last of Us, and we're glad you're back.
Yeah, I absolutely, and it's cool that you played the game. Because I will definitely would appreciate from everybody out there, if you've played the game and you're watching, if you spot something from the game that I don't mention, by all means, let me know. If something wrong, like I already have, let me know. The only thing I would say is just be careful on what you reveal about the game, because Diana has not played the game, so she doesn't have that knowledge. And I'm sure a lot of people have not played the game and they're just watching it. And it would just be bad if you mention something that, and then this happens in the game, and it, spoil something for someone that's not familiar with it. So if you could just be real careful when you start talking about stuff like you mentioned, Andy, about the game tried really hard to make you like Abby. Okay, that's true, and I agree, but let's kind of hold those cards close to our vest for a little while here and see what they do. And my rule is I will try not to talk about stuff from the game until I see it on the show, and then it's out there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But anyway, if you could, that'd be great. But again, it's very cool that you're writing back again. We missed you, and it's awesome that you're back on board, because your feedback is always really great. So thank you so much, and welcome back.
Yay! Thanks, Andy.
All right, so moving on, our next piece of feedback, and now all of this is about episode 2. So we're all now on the episode here, and our first piece of feedback came from Teresa Harper. Hello, Teresa.
Hey, welcome back, Teresa.
What's going on? It's so cool to hear from you. And she sent this in via the Facebook. She says, OMG! Lots of exclamation points. Best thing I've ever watched. I'm not sleeping for a week after that episode, and then a whole bunch of exclamation points. And then she writes, wow! And she has the surprised emoji, the look emoji.
Yeah.
And then she says, R.I.P. Joel. I have a suspicion that they just set Tommy up to be the new main character. I'm good with that, although I will miss Joel, but man, did they replicate the game this episode. I was blown away. I'm talking even down to the way Abby huffed when out in the cold. It sounded just like she sounds in the game. Yeah, it did. Eugene's 7-Eleven pot house. Epic. I know, right? It was just unbelievable.
Right.
She goes, I could go on and on and on about the similarities. I'm super excited to watch episode 3. This episode was so freaking good. And yeah, Teresa, again, for people who've played the game, it is just uncanny how accurate they are in all the little details to recreate the locations, the characters, the sound. I mean, it's just unbelievable, you know. Words fail, and again, hopefully at some point, Diana, you can at least, you know, see some of the sequences from the game and be like, oh my God, they really did nail these. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out sometime. Thanks for writing in, Teresa. It's good to hear from you again.
It is good to hear from you. Thank you.
Next up, we have our most consistent giver of feedback, our pal Erica Price. Hello, Erica. Erica wrote in via the Facebooks, and she says, Ellie and Jesse together are a great team. He really handles her well. I love that they're showing us way more infected this season. Seeing them boil up out of the snow was worth rewatching a couple of times. But where did this horde come from? That area is desolate and was surely cleared out years ago by Tommy's group. Wow, Abby doesn't mess around. Now we know Joel let the nurses live. Good. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Sorry. I have to go bawl my eyes out now. I'll be right back. I know Abby beat the living shirt out of Joel. I'm glad they only showed as much as they did. I'm so heartbroken for Ellie. For Tommy. This sucks. I absolutely did not see that coming. R.I.P. Joel Miller. You done good. And then it's like a surprised sad emoji, then the sad emoji, then the really sad emoji.
The crying emoji, yeah.
Yeah, the crying and then the shedding of tears. Yeah. This week's pun is a sad pun. Sorry, folks. What kind of tea is hard to swallow? Reality.
I see what you did.
Sad. I see what you did. And she put in a quick little PS. She says, PS, WLF, which is on all of their, they've got like a patch on all of their stuff, and they said that they're part of a militia now. Mm-hmm. She says, Western Liberation Front. I don't know. I don't know what that is. So maybe that's what it is.
I know what it is, and I don't think it's going to ruin anything if I tell you, because Abby mentions that they're from Seattle. And she says, you know, tells Joe, you wouldn't want to go there, you know, and so on. And so WLF means Washington Liberation Front.
Oh, there you go. Washington.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
okay.
So that's what that means. And again, I don't think that's gonna blow anyone away. Like, I needed to find that out on my own. But if I did, I apologize.
Yeah. And as far as like where the horde came from, I just likened it to, you know, remember the scenes that we got of Rick and his crew with the what was it, the quarry, where the dead would just like slowly like fall inside the quarry, and one at a time. I feel like this horde is probably just, you know, infected that come along like in the middle of the night that people don't see, and they slide down the hill and they end up in this big, you know, area of snow, because right now we're right at, it's New Year's Day, so it's probably, and where they're located in Jackson Hole, I have been there, and it's very mountainous and very, you know, I'm sure that there's at least a couple of feet of snow in most areas of the mountains by now. So they probably, you know, were on a road or on a path and slide and fall down, and then they end up, you know, at the bottom of a snow pile. Because, you know, you've done the same thing when you jump in a snow pile and you end up like, you know, with snow all around you and you're covered up. I just picture the same sort of thing happening, that they just keep getting more and more stuck in the same area, you know, one at a time. And if it's, you know, if they're covered by the snow and every time snowfall happens and they're covered up and no one sees it, then no one sees it, you know. That's what I was thinking.
You know, I agree with you. The only thing I would add is that, you know, you have the telegraph capability of the cordyceps, like weeds, and maybe they're like calling out to infected and drawing them to that area because there are people there.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of reasons, but you're right. It is a little weird because, you know, you think that they've for years and years they've been patrolling, and, you know, when they run across ones and twosies of infected, they clear them out and kill them. But again, make your own damn show, right? It's wizards magic, it's TV. You just got to kind of go with it. Yeah. And like you said, it was unbelievably cool when they all come swirling up out of the snow, right? I mean, that was amazing. So, but great feedback.
Wow. Thanks for writing in, Erica. We look forward to hearing from you next week. Where we will be, when you hear us, when you're listening to this, we will be in both of your ears.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right, moving along, we got feedback from another regular of ours, and that's Alma Contreras. Hey, Alma, how are you doing?
Hey.
Nice to hear from you again. And she sent this in via the Facebook as well, and she says, "Oh my goodness. This episode felt like a finale." Did. Although I'm completely destroyed right now, and she put 3 of the, crying your eyes out emojis. It was a very good episode. Okay, I'm just going to go cry myself to sleep now. I can't wait to hear y'all's thoughts. And she ends with the broken heart emoji and, again, a crying emoji. So yeah, this episode, I think everyone is, shocked and saddened because it was. I mean, it was shocking just because, it's a TV show, and the guy with top billing on the show, the actor, got killed.
Yep.
On episode 2. So,
which never happens.
It's the equivalent of Janet Leigh getting killed in the shower in Psycho 20 minutes into the movie when she's the top billed actor in the movie.
Yeah. But surprising, but we're all going to get through it together.
We are. So anyway, Alma, thank you so much. We're glad that you sent in feedback, and please let us know your thoughts for next week, because just like you can't wait to hear our thoughts, we can't wait to hear yours.
I know, and it's nice to hear from you again. Thanks for writing in.
Yeah.
All right, so next up, we got an email from our pal over in sunny old England, Bev2. Hey, Bev.
Hey, Bev.
And Bev wrote in saying, "Hi, guys, it's good to have you back." Oh, likewise.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "I had a feeling after last week's quieter opening episode that we would be in for a more exciting one this week, and I wasn't wrong. They sure didn't hang around. They really did everything in the eye of the storm. The action at the settlement was so intense, my heart was pounding, and my brain struggled to keep up with everything that was going on. In comparison, the story around the lodge was also stressful, but in a different way. I don't know about you, but I thought the Firefly group would put their issues aside to help the settlement. Or maybe Ellie and her mate would save the day. How wrong could I be?" When the end of Joel came, I couldn't believe it. My jaw was on the floor. I kept thinking maybe they would save him, but no, that last shout was the final nail in the coffin. I can't wait to see Ellie's revenge through the rest of the season. I'm not sure how long my husband will be watching it with me. He's really pissed off that who he felt was the main character and the star is dead. He thinks it's like going on and on about having Tom Cruise in your TV series only to kill him off in the first 10 minutes. I can't wait to hear what everyone else thinks from Bev from sunny and rainy Devon. Well, first of all, great to hear from you again, Bev.
Yes.
And we're so glad to have you on board. And we agree. All the way up until the very end, I was like, oh no, someone's coming. Someone's coming. Someone's definitely coming to save. And it just didn't happen.
It did not happen.
So.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and again, if you feature on Max, Craig Mazin, like they talk about the battle first. And how intense it was to film it and all that stuff. And then literally it cuts to Craig Mazin and he's like, everyone take a deep breath. Because he's like, now we're going to talk about the Joel stuff. And he literally said that to give the show the gravitas that it needed, he said he decided, we had to kill a main character. You had to have that loss, and again, I mean, it's what the game did, and so he felt that was the right choice, and so I mean, it is shocking. There's no way around it. It's shocking, and it's just unlike what television does, which I think is really great, because now we're like, what the hell's going to happen next?
I know. I mean, obviously, Ellie Revenge, of course, is going to be like tops on the menu, but still, how they do it, we don't know, because they did say they're going to deviate, and they haven't done that yet.
No, not a lot, not a lot. So
yeah. So looking forward to seeing what they do here. But great to hear from you, Bev, and we hope to hear from you each week as we keep covering this. So,
I hope so.
Thanks again for writing in.
Absolutely. And please let us know about the weather, because we're very concerned about you in Devon. All right.
Yes.
Moving on, our last piece of feedback on the show, on this episode, comes from our pal Karen, not related to the other Cohen.
Yes.
And she wrote this in via the Facebook, and she goes, I know I'm too late, but I'll comment anyway. Well, you know what? You weren't too late, Karen. That's
right.
So there you go. And was she thinking we were recording on Mondays, you think?
Probably, yeah. That's what I think.
Yeah. But anyway.
No, you're good. You got a whole extra day, girl.
Right. Yeah, again, for everybody, we're recording on Tuesdays because the episodes really aren't available until Sunday night, and both Dee and I like to watch it a couple times to really kind of, get our thoughts together. So we thought Tuesday is a better night to record, so we're not killing ourselves trying to watch it a whole bunch of times in a very short period. Anyway, Karen goes on to say, man, Ellie curses a lot in this episode. Way more than everyone else. She kills him and they just leave. I think she being Abby. Isn't there a blizzard? And I noticed that too. That as soon as the shots of them out in the snow, both the fireflies and the horses dragging the body, it ain't snowing no more. The wind isn't blowing. It's like the storm is gone, right? And I think there's
conveniently, yes.
I think there's some symbolism there. What Mason's trying to say is that Abby kind of was the storm in a way, and her vengeance, once that happens and is carried out, the storm has passed, right?
Yeah, it dissipates.
And yeah. So, but you're not wrong, right? Yeah, there was this huge blizzard that was so bad, it was so cold, so windy, you can't be outside, and then it's gone. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Then she says, aren't they 2 horses short on the way home?
Yeah, I've seen other people point that out too. Why did they double up when they didn't need to?
You're right. It's a good question, and clearly they had Joel and Dina's horses, and then Ellie rode up in a horse, and then we see Jesse riding up to the lodge in the background when the fireflies are leaving. So right, there should be 4 horses, okay. I don't know why. Maybe they felt that shot looked better with not having 2 extra horses being, marched in the background or something. I don't know. She goes on, that one horse has to carry 2 people and pull the body? That's true. The only thing I would point out to defend that at all is that you have to remember that Dina was heavily sedated 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
She
was.
And she, if you watch that sequence, she's got her head down and looks like she's asleep or very, very groggy. So maybe Jesse thought, you know what, I'll just deal with dragging the body and doing all that stuff and just let her focus on trying to stay on the horse. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I could think of. But it is interesting, that one poor horse has to do everything. And then finally Karen closes it up by saying, looking forward to the revenge on revenge plot line. And then she says, cheers.
It's just a Venn diagram of revenge on revenge.
And revenge.
On revenge on revenge. Yeah. So, that's all there is.
It is funny, though. It's ironic, don't you think, that, Abby is on this revenge mission to kill Joel, and she does it, but in doing so, she now is going to set off Ellie on her own revenge mission. And when does it end, right? If Ellie goes and kills all these people, are their friends then going to want to kill Ellie and come and kill her? And then will Jesse then come and kill them? I mean, it's it never stops, right? So.
Yeah. Never ending.
But anyway.
Revenge.
Thank you, Karen, for writing in. It's good to hear from you as well. This is so cool. We got a lot of our regulars back writing. That's awesome. And some very good points. And remember, Tuesday, you can send in your feedback on Tuesday. And that's pretty cool.
Perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Glad to hear from you, though, Karen. We look forward to more thoughts next week. So next up, we got a couple of different emails, sort of just general feedback. The first email we got from Christopher Alexander. Hey, Chris, thanks for writing in.
Hello, Christopher.
And just dropped us a really quick note, and he said, if you guys haven't seen Sinners yet, it is a must-watch. It is a very unique entry in the horror genre of film. Now, if you're not familiar, Sinners is the new Ryan Coogler film. Yep. Ryan Coogler is the one who did Black Panther. Yep. And this is
Michael B. Jordan
is the main character. He actually plays twins in this movie, but it's supposed to be very jazz and blues. It's very blues oriented. And I've heard lots of people say if a blues movie was crossed with what's the word? What's the movie? Damn it. Quentin Tarantino from Dusk Till Dawn.
Pulp Fiction.
Yes. No. No.
A film
it's, from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, from Dusk Till
Dawn.
Okay. I don't know where you're going with this.
Because there's a vampire element to it.
Okay.
If you take that and you crossed it with a really good bluesy theme and whatever, and I've heard really, really good things about it so far. So sounds like you liked it, Christopher, and we'll have to sort of see if we can squeeze that in at the movie theater at some point. And it had a really good opening too, so hopefully you can stick around in the theaters for a little bit.
It did just open like last week, so it's relatively new. So hopefully it'll have a little bit of a life at the theater, so we can get a chance to go see it.
Here's hoping. So yeah, thanks for the recommendation. Glad it sounds like you liked it too. So great, yay! All right, thanks, Christopher.
Thank you so much, man. And then finally, we're not 100% sure, but we're mostly sure that we received we received an email from who I want to say is Rick Christian, which if it's Rick Christian I've known my whole life, hey Rick, what's going on? And if it's another Rick Christian or someone not named Rick Christian but named Christian Rick, welcome and hello. Thank you so much for writing in. And he sent in, this was an email, and it was actually a very long email that has a bunch of things that he's watched and then listened to our podcast on. So he commented on a bunch of different stuff. It was really interesting. And he said that he's just like at the beginning of season 1 of Last of Us. So he's a little bit behind, but he's really enjoying it, and he's going to, I'm sure binge through it soon, and he's going to write back and give us more specific feedback about season 2 when he's caught up. So, awesome. Yeah. Please do let us know your thoughts. This is so cool. And, thank you for listening to all the other stuff, because you had a lot of interesting thoughts on that, and that was really cool. So again, if it's the Rick I know, what's going on, brother? And if it's a new person, welcome to the group.
I mean, here's just a list. There's thoughts included in the email for Mad Max Fury Road, Furiosa, Dune Part 1 and 2, because we covered both parts of the movie, Dune Prophecy thoughts, Three Body Problem thoughts, and then even totally guessing predictions for season 5 of Stranger Things, which was unwarranted. We didn't do anything about Stranger Things.
Wow.
Yes. But just at the end, I just started watching Last of Us, so I will catch up on your reviews when I finish season 1. So yes, and hopefully send in some more feedback. We look forward to that, Rick. He actually just watched a long time, and he says, "Oh, the feels."
Oh, the feels.
And it's true. That's a great one. But thanks for writing in. Oh my God, talk about that's a big chunk of stuff that you've watched and
listened to us babble on about. That's amazing.
Whew. Yeah, because as you can tell, we're not we don't have short podcasts.
No,
that's just not how we
don't. And I all I can think is you must have lost a bet.
So that's it for the feedback for this week. So coming up next week on the podcast, kind of like last week. As of right now of the recording on Tuesday night, no title for the episode yet and no description yet for episode 3. We did, now at the end of episode 1, we got the coming up this season on Last of Us. But at the end of episode 2, they had on the next episode of...
Yes.
And we get lots of images of, Tommy by the corpse of Joel, and there's images of Ellie walking through the house and like smelling Joel's clothes and getting upset. And
straight out of the game.
And there's images of her training with Jesse. She's like punching a punching bag, and she's clearly planning on beating the shit out of Abby when she comes close to her. There's a great little moment where you see a scene with Dina and Ellie where she's like, I know who they are and I know their name. And there even shows that she tried drawing out the patch for the WLF.
Yeah, yep.
So they can use that to try and find these people. So obviously,
and
revenge
also,
mission.
Yeah, there's also a scene where she wakes up in the hospital and she screams.
Yeah, we don't know what that's about, but I wonder if it's just
realization,
a dream or something.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like Ellie Revenge Mission Part 1 is gonna start kicking into high gear next week.
I think you are possibly onto something. Yes.
So that's next week, which we will, of course, chat about next week. And coming up for us personally, we've got a convention coming up in like 2.5 weeks here in the Chicago area. GalaxyCon is putting on a brand new convention, new for here, and it's called Nightmare Weekend. Pretty extensive guest list. And that's coming up the first weekend in May, I believe, are the dates. And Steve is still thinking about going. There are a couple of people there that you're interested in, but we're on the fence about this one. This is the first year for it, so we're sort of we're wishing them well and hoping that it goes well for them kind of from afar, but we're gonna sort of, I know I personally am gonna, the ticket is just a little out of my price range
pricey
right now.
It's at GalaxyCon. They have shows all over the country. They've been around for a while. They have a good rep. They put on a good show. This is the first time they're doing it here, and I just think that a single day ticket is very close to like what a weekend pass would be for some of the other shows we go to. So, and again, they're in the Don, so it's in the big convention center, so maybe they gotta be a little more pricey to cover that and all the guests. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Like I said, we're kind of there's the main person I want to go see is Sean Cunningham, which is the guy who basically created Friday the 13th. Back in 1979, 1980, and I would love to meet that guy. He's 83. How many shows does he have left in him? I don't know. So
that's true. That's definitely something to consider.
Yeah. So, but again, like you said, we have to kind of look at the piggy bank and figure out what makes sense to do. So, but well, hopefully we will be able to give you a report on it. But that's not for a couple weeks.
Yeah, we still got a few weeks. And then right about a little under a month from now, probably about 3.5 weeks from now, we've talked about it before. Nick DiGilio, who does a film podcast locally, is a local film reviewer. He is doing, he has this special series he does at a local theater and local to the Chicago area, not quite local to me, but it's worth the drive. And he does basically, for all intents and purposes, it's shit that Nick likes.
Yes.
Movie marathons or movie series, and it's once a month. And it spans like several months. We went to the Escape from New York one just about 2 months ago. And the one for April was Ishtar, which is hilarious. I did not go to that, but he said he did get a decent turnout for it. So that's great.
He did. And so they're doing Fury Road. They're doing Doctor Strangelove this year. It's a very eclectic, set of movies. It's not like one type or genre or anything.
Right. No genre. Yeah. The genre is movies I like, pretty much.
Yes. But
and so
go ahead.
So Fury Road is the one that's coming up, and we are definitely going to be there.
Going to be there decked out in our Fury Road t-shirts. I'm sure we'll be the only ones. And
no one will do it.
I'm excited because this is going to be your first chance to see Fury Road in the theater, and so that's
and the big screen. I'm pretty excited.
That's going to be pretty great. So So
Yeah.
tickets are still available. You can just Google Lake Theater or Nick's Picks, I think is what he calls his series there.
Yep.
You can go to Nick DiGilio. I think it's nickd.com is his website, and you can get tickets that way. And tickets are only $9 for a movie. That's amazing.
Super cheap.
Yeah, and the concessions there are very reasonably priced, and you get free refills on popcorn and drinks and everything. So it's actually not a crazy expensive thing to go, and it's on a Wednesday night at 7:00, so you're home at a reasonable hour too. So yeah,
Absolutely.
If you get a chance, go, because it's going to be super fun.
Yeah. And if you're interested in getting more information on those, I've got some links that I'm going to add to the show notes. So just take a look through there, and you can just click on those and get more information about those events. So, yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. We did it.
Oh, my God.
And
it's
such
not
an
3
emotional
hours
episode.
Yet.
Not yet. Oh, my God. We better stop soon. So that's going to do it for us this week, folks. We look forward to chatting with you about episode 3 next week. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
Don't forget to always aim for the head.
Because those body shots, just ask Joel, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
Let's get rolling, because we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Oh, my God. Well, why? This is a light episode. Nothing really happened.
Yeah, not a lot of action, and not a lot of
story, not a lot of
story elements.
no drama,
no dramatic
all.
story, no dramatic story elements at all.